Well, there goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome on this Saturday morning, April 22nd, 2023, to a brand new episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the Stream, featuring me, Dave Lefkowitz. My darling and adorable wife Joyce will join us in a little bit for all the usual stuff, the fun things that we do from 9 until noonish or thereabouts every Saturday morning. Today I don't think we're going to go the whole time, but we've got some stuff to do on the show. Some stuff to do. Here's a hint of the most important thing we'll be doing. That is not a cigar, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, I shall explain. But we're calling this episode Dang Me, kind of like the Roger Miller tune, but nothing to do with the Roger Miller song or Roger Miller something else. We'll get to it. I will lead to it slowly, so you know exactly what's going to happen on our 891st episode of the program. Here's another hint. And there's another hint. Okay, so first of all, we're going to do Greeley Crimes and Old Times. If you know the show, you know that this is a segment that comes out of the pages of the Greeley Tribune daily newspaper out in northern Colorado. And they have two columns in the Trib, one of which takes the phone calls that come into the local police department and finds the most ridiculous and funniest ones, real phone calls, and lists them once a week in the paper. We get that, and anybody who reads the Trib gets it, and we enjoy going over those with you and mixing them with another column in the Trib called 100 Years Ago, and that is when a writer there named Mike Peters, who's been with them for a couple of decades, he looks at the newspapers from 100 years ago, from 1923, and plucks out that the things that to our eyes are the most goofy or nostalgic or funny. It's like, oh, I can't believe I wrote that, or they did that back then. So in the paper, that's called 100 Years Ago. We mix that up with the things that they have in Coplog that I mentioned and call the segment Greeley Crimes and Old Times. It's a lot of fun. You don't want to miss it. We'll be doing that in a little while. We will also, this particular week, have a visit from Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Now, Rabbi Sol most of the time does our interviews on the program these days for the past few years, but this week, and he's not even doing a rabbinical reflection, which is one of his small 5-minute sermons. Oh, yeah. This week, 3 weeks after Passover, because that's his kind of timing, he's going to be reading a book. You know, we one of the segments we used to do on this show a few years back is StoryTime. StoryTime. We're doing great on StoryTime. And all it is being able to read a book written by somebody else, on the show and share it with y'all. And so we talked about this a week or two ago when we were doing, or remembering, doing about Hans and his pet goat, one of the classic books ever written. And I literally read that book cover to cover. It took weeks. And then we started doing a lot of shorter books, including quite recently a highlights poetry book, and goofing on that. But this week, oh joy, look what we have. Joyce and I were talking about the being able to go locally to these mini lending library book drops. They're kind of, they look like bird feeders almost, or bird houses. And they're on people's lawns, right by the front of the lawn, and you just kind of go to them. And if you have a book you're not going to read anymore and you want to get rid of, you put it in the book thing. And if you see a book there that you want to read, just take it. There's no fee, no nothing. There's no anything. It's a lending library, if you will. And they have them every couple of blocks all over town. It's a wonderful thing. They probably have it where you live too. So we've gotten some interesting things and some really cool things. I mean, some classic literature. I picked up a copy of Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead, which I want to read again. And other small and weirder things. But this week, this past week, Joyce and I were passing by, looked in the book drop and saw this. That is also the book drop where we read a couple of weeks ago the rather horrifying children's book about potatoes being turned into, Yeah, Joyce is, I don't know if you can hear her, but they're saying that the potatoes escaped from this chef who was trying to chop, well, he was not really a chef, he was a diner cook, and going to chop them into, it wasn't a Jewish book, so it wasn't latkes or anything, but he was going to make them into French fries and potato, God knows what. I'm sorry. I know this upsets him. No. I'm sorry, potato. He's wearing I'll explain why he's wearing his shower cap. But, so we found that book there, and in the same book drop, just a week or two later, we found The Secret Seder. Oh, doesn't that look like a joyful book that you would want to share with your 4-year-old? Rabbi Sal will be reading for you and with you The Secret Seder by, let's just say Robert Mapplethorpe. It's Doreen Rappaport. Gotta have my eyes checked. And with illustrations by Emily Arnold McCulley. Oh boy. Yes, I do believe it is Holocaust Remembrance Week, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
So, yeah, Rabbi Sal will remember the Holocaust this week by reading The Secret Seder with you. By the way, that's my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. How are you, Miss Joycey?
I'm very sleepy, and I feel warm, and I had to get dressed, and I put on pants, like my gym pants, but it was hot, they were tight, I had to change out of it.
And this is your morning. How come you couldn't just not wear pants? You know, I prefer that.
Because the rug would burn, it burns, the burns.
Oh, yes, the rug burns.
Yes, burns.
Do you see the wonderful decoration I have?
I like you did the one for pooping.
Yes, I did. I haven't explained why yet. I'm going. You have to see the expressions on Joyce's face.
Oh, good Lord.
Because I've told them that on this episode we're doing Greeley Crimes and Old Times, and that we're doing.
Is that it?
Rabbi Sal Solomon's with The Secret Seder. There you go.
Oh, you're wearing a brown shirt. I see that too. Is that intentional?
Yes.
Oh,
Everything has a meaning.
You wanted me to do the tempo for it. I didn't practice.
It's a waltz.
No, but give me that. Give me the beat.
Exactly.
Okay, I had practice.
Oh boy.
I'm
so excited about
I'm late
this.
for practice. I'm like a traditional musician.
That's right. Well, no, you're sober. You're sober and you're not stoned, so
No, that's true.
not quite a
But
traditional.
I am dizzy, so that's like, maybe a part of it.
Dizzy, do you have your trumpet?
No.
Can't get dizzy is a.
Oh, Dizzy Gillespie. No.
There you go. Now.
Oh,
Ah.
I don't play music. My grandpa played the.
Oh, that's interesting. Was there ever a point when you asked your parents or your parents that you should play piano or take up guitar or do band?
Working class, no. I was tracked into the thinking class of people where you had to do math and you had to do all the things people wanted you to do.
Well, I had to do that too, but we got piano because I thought I wanted to play piano. What I didn't want to do was practice piano.
No, I think for working class people, like it's not something to think about. I mean, for me, it was I didn't have to go to college if I didn't want to. My grandparents wanted it, but people did all sorts of stuff. I had 2 cousins. My Aunt Edie went to Columbia and got a PhD, and then my Aunt Carol, this is the joke in the family, she didn't want to incur Columbia money, so she got a PhD at NYU. And so she was a principal for a long time, but they were like great aunts or great aunts.
They weren't that great.
So there were no expectations, and I could have done what I wanted.
Yeah. Oh, it's so weird you mentioned Columbia, where I'm just going to be talking next week in class about John Kennedy Toole, the guy who wrote A Confederacy of Dunces.
Yes.
You've heard. Have you ever read the book? It's hysterical.
No, I think you always laugh and read it to me, but I've never.
It's pretty great. But anyway.
David, I can't go down right now.
I got water and I've got that's my coffee. I'm good.
You have something.
Yeah.
I can make you tea, but I can't do it this moment.
This is my morning phlegm, which I need to clear off before we get to the important debut.
I don't think you even need to bother with that.
No, I certainly don't. It's funny you mention that because the first section of the book that I had my students read ends with Ignatius Riley vomiting along the side of a car.
More vomit talk.
All right. I'm just saying. But John Kennedy Toole worked his butt off in order to graduate with a master's from Columbia in 1 year, and then he really wanted to get
David, I did in a year and a half.
Yeah. And then he wanted to go for a PhD at Columbia, and he was like saving towards it and trying, but then they offered him like teaching at Hunter.
I was accepted to half a program in a mixed program at Columbia, but then it went to Fordham. So.
Oh yeah, and he ended up not getting the doctorate. He ended up having a whole different life in teaching.
I think you got to do what's right for you. The PhD isn't like it's not this great thing. It's the thing you do. It's a means to an end.
Oh, of course. But it was just you mentioned like Columbia was this shining thing, even though he kind of hated it there.
Mm-hmm.
He thought everybody was elitist and racist and leftist. So
I think everybody that I went to school with, there was a lack of for me empathy with every human being.
Yeah. In fact, he completely found that there. But he still wanted the doctorate from Columbia.
We all want what we want, right?
This is true.
Anna Freud thought women were bad.
Oh, well, yeah.
Right.
And I want, a lot of cheerleaders naked. Do I get that? No, I do not. Also on Dave's Gone By, this Saturday, April 22nd, we will have our Colorado Limerick.
That's too much.
No, it's not too much. Because Joyce and I lived in Colorado for...
Too much funny.
Oh, can there ever be too much funny?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I think there's not enough funny. I think there's not enough understanding of funny. Speaking of school, speaking of teaching, I showed, because I was also talking about...
Are you going to talk about the Marx Brothers?
Yeah, this week I'm going to show the Marx Brothers, and last week, just for funsies.
I don't like Marx Brothers.
Why don't women like the Marx Brothers?
Because it's stupid.
There's something wonderful about stupid. Isn't there?
Yeah, I guess so.
You married. Stupid. And is there...
Wait until you start doing your special song,
yeah. Well, we do have a poem.
Are you going to play it live?
I'm going to try and do it live, and then I'll show the video.
Where's your music?
I've got it on a
on a track.
on an MP3 or a
wow, you're just
QuickTime track.
You're just like Billy Elliot.
And what's that movie you watched about the Tourette's?
Oh, Capaldi, Louis Capaldi.
Louis Capaldi. What was his Tourette's like? I didn't watch the film.
He didn't have Tourette's. He had some kind of... The anxiety got so bad it manifested in physical tics. So he would do like shoulder tics. He had so much stress that he couldn't control the anxiety.
Yeah, and it's so bad with him that when he posts his and little videos and things, he puts them just on talk. As opposed to TikTok.
Oh, it's cute.
Because he avoids the tics.
That's cute.
That's yeah. Thank you very much. No, but I showed. This is unbelievable. I showed last week, or maybe it was on Tuesday. No, it was Tuesday. I showed my students, or I had them read an old Kurt Vonnegut short story called Epicac. All about a computer. It had nothing to do with what you're thinking it had to do with it. It was like a computer that presaged HAL 9000, presaged ChatGPT. It was a computer that was becoming sentient until it basically burned itself out and committed suicide over love. It's a wonderful short story. But the joke of it, one of the jokes of it was that it was called Epicac because in the 1940s, the government designed ENIAC, which was this huge computer. It took up a room in order to help the military do its budgeting and figure out how many rounds for how much money can you use to kill people very, very quickly. And it's just, and it was this enormous thing that prefigured laptops and it prefigured UNIVAC and all of those.
For me too, I still don't know how the internet works.
Oh.
We don't know a lot of basic stuff.
I talk, air carries, and there's a wire somewhere.
How terrestrial TV works.
Literally, as I'm speaking, there are ones and zeros in my brain, and they're somehow coming out as words, and that's how the internet works. But so
that was a good explanation. I bought that.
Thank you. So Epicac was a joke on ENIAC, the real computer, the one that the government tried to literally run for 10 years even though every other day tubes would blow out and then they couldn't use it and they had to replace the tubes. But they spent so much money on it, like 10 times the budget, this being the government.
Give it up, yeah.
Yeah, so they had to make it go, but it was also very important in a step towards computerization. But I also told the kids, hey, have you ever heard of any of Ipecac, which is another kind of play on words? And one kid in one of my classes had heard of it, didn't really know what it was, but he heard Ipecac was some kind of thing you ingest, which it was.
You probably thought it was a mushroom.
This kid, maybe. So I explained to them earlier in the week, well, syrup of Ipecac was something that you gave people if they ingested poison or they had a toxin in them.
No, it's actually, no, you don't do it. You don't throw up a poison.
Well, or back in the day, this is what they did. They make people throw up.
Usually they give you charcoal.
Charcoal came later. The difference between charcoal is that charcoal goes in there and helps the body not absorb all the poison.
Otherwise you rip up your lining when you're throwing it up.
So it was the thing that replaced syrup of Ipecac because it did better. Because Ipecac didn't do that much to keep the poison out of it just helped you throw up. So if you still had it like in your throat, it was good. But charcoal helped get it further out.
Yeah.
But I showed what for me is about the funniest 2 minutes of video of anything of all time.
Which the chicken one too, right?
Oh, yeah, Peter fighting the chicken is fantastic. I love that, but nothing compares to the scene in Family Guy where, and it's apropos of nothing. It's kind of like the episode where Peter falls in love with the song Surfing Bird.
Oh, yeah.
And he becomes obsessed with it. And it's 5 minutes of his obsession with surfing, but it has nothing to do with the rest of the program. This is one where Peter decides, again for no good reason, to go to Mort, the drugstore, and buy up bottles of Ipecac, syrup of Ipecac, and for a contest. You haven't seen this?
I don't remember.
You probably don't want to remember because you haven't been well this week.
But also when I had migraines, I used to vomit. So people who used to vomit do not want to see anything that I remember being on an airplane. You were with me.
Yeah.
And we had a bad turbulence, and it smelled like vomit or poop.
No, it wasn't vomit. It was the other thing.
Poop. And then I remember hearing someone go, and then another one go, and it just sort of everybody, some people have that
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, because
that was poo-poo? Someone pooed?
On the plane. That smelled like child poo.
No, it didn't. It wasn't a child.
Oh, you think it was?
No, there was no child behind us, no.
Because I don't think puke, and I've been with you when you've been puking when you had headaches.
It smelled like doo-doo, and I thought, and then I heard,
because people were sitting much closer.
Probably smelled it.
When I was in the back of the plane, we smelled it, and we were like, oh, that's not nice. Imagine.
You were next to it.
Yeah. And they're letting off the plane slowly, and you're in the back of the plane, and you're like waiting, and it's just you're near the toilet. Imagine, of course, we probably would be gagging too. So,
Did Oofty wear a diaper when we took him on the plane?
I bet.
I think so. I wonder if we had to take it off when he went through customs.
I think we probably put one on both dogs.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. But anyway, so I showed the scene in Family Guy where Peter has a contest with everyone but Lois. Lois is in the kitchen cooking. And Peter says, all right, there's one slice of her amazing pie left.
Oh, God.
So
I do remember this now, yeah.
All of us are going to drink a little bottle of Ipecac.
The dog, yeah.
And of course, Brian and Stewie and who are
Brian, Stewie,
the brother and sister.
I don't know.
Meg.
Meg, yeah.
And oh my God, what is his name?
He's the little blonde kid. Right?
Yeah. Seth Green. Anyway. So we're all going to drink a little bottle of Ipecac, and whoever throws up whoever holds it down, gets to eat the piece of pie, which already is the most the dumbest thing you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And
for a father to do to his infant dog and children, yes.
Right.
It's like he's the father. He's the father figure. You're supposed to protect your children, not make them vomit for pie.
So I wanted to give my students a laugh, and I also wanted to connect it to Ipecac. That is a play on Ipecac is kind of a play on Ipecac as well as ENIAC, Da, da, da. Let's watch this. It's 2 minutes long. And also this idea of sometimes in the things that we're reading that are comic, it's amazing how something builds from absolute calm the whole segment lasts a minute and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just calm because they're drinking, and they're sitting and waiting into absolute horror and chaos in 60 seconds. And it's hysterically funny. It's basically one after another and then simultaneously and all over each other, they're throwing up. With the noises, with commentary like Brian the dog telling Peter, I need you to come here and hold my ears. Which is the most genius line. I have seen this clip 100 times. I'm watching it in class. I'm still rolling because, it doesn't help. No. And then Peter gets behind Brian, holds his ears, and throws up on him. It's genius. If anybody doubts that Seth MacFarlane is a genius, just watch that clip.
Maybe he'll get the Nobel Peace Prize for that, honey.
Oh, well, I'm watching.
Who wants to be part of it here?
Show me. So I'm watching, and I'm showing this clip to explain it. And like a couple of kids are laughing in a room full of about 15 people, and other people are like looking at their phones or like. And I give a trigger warning beforehand because I know people have eating disorders.
No, but also
and
I wouldn't want to see it because I vomit. When you vomit, you don't want to see that.
It's comedy. It's also a cartoon. But, so I make sure I give the trigger.
When you had your hernia, would you want to see people in hernia pain?
When I was physically getting over it and horribly in pain, no.
See, so you don't know.
6 months later, it'd be hysterical. When I was young, I wrote speaking of parody songs, I wrote a song to David Bowie's TBC 15, if you ever know that song from Station to Station. It was a hernia, both sides, which I was born with. When I was born, I had a hernia on both sides. They fixed one.
How did you come out with a hernia? What the frick were you doing? What were you doing in the womb?
I know. I had hernia and hair lip.
Somersaults? Like, how do you get a hernia? And you were in fluid. You were a little baby in a bag of fluid. How did you get a hernia?
I had a part-time job.
What did you do?
I was lifting plumbing supplies. My mom's plumbing, she had heavy intestinal tubes.
You remember when we were you were getting physical therapy. I don't know for what part in Colorado.
What part? This part.
Where you're going from, and then,
yeah.
Remember they also tested people if you had a job where you had to push something or lift something, they actually did physical testing for jobs.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I remember guys pushing things and lifting. I was like, oh my God.
No, but I was born with a hernia. I had the hernia corrected, one hernia corrected when I was probably about 10 or 11 years old, maybe a little younger than that. And
was it
a couple of years later, I wrote a song about
was it
hernias.
Laparoscopic or was it?
No, back then it was.
They cut in.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they went in there and they did what, and they brought down. I had a recalcitrant testicle. They had to bring down one of my. My dog. I thought you knew that. You knew.
I forgot you both shared that collection.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd have one nut just floating around where my nipple is. I'd be I'd be eating breakfast. And what? Oh crap! I got to swallow that again. Hope it goes down all the way this time.
David,
yeah.
That's not anatomy or biology, but we'll roll with it.
So when I was getting over the hernia, I couldn't laugh at anything.
You couldn't.
But we're talking about the hernia that I had about 20 years ago. I'm talking about the one I had 40-something, 50 years ago. But I wrote a song. I got a hernia both sides. All about how awful it was. This was before, and this was 15 years before Weird Al Yankovic wrote "Living with a Hernia," based on the James Brown song.
Yeah.
Oh, that song but my David Bowie parody
because
you don't
know.
You
don't let me listen or read any of your stuff.
It's all on the internet. Go to davelefkowitz.org.
You're a little unicorn with your music and your writing.
I don't even know what the hell that means. I literally don't know what that means.
You don't share anything.
Dave left. Well, no.
Let me see the latest play you're working on.
Oh, which one are you talking about?
The latest one you're working on. I don't
working
know.
on or finished? Because
on
no one's read. I've been working with Rabbi Sal Solomon on the sequel. It's finished. The sequel to Shalom Dammit, and it's called Hate Speech with Love.
Aww.
Another evening with Rabbi Sal Solomon.
That's it's conservative love. I like that.
Let's see. Where? Oh, this is total.
Did you post that up?
It's there. I believe that's on davelefkowitz.org, as is
What is it
hernia.
about? What is it about?
Well, it's Rabbi Saul doubling down on some of the things he talked about in Shalom Dammit, as well as talking about, it's not a musical.
Oh,
But it's all about
it is a musical or
different.
not?
It is not. It's simply him talking
Do you
about.
want me to go down and make you tea?
No, I'm good. I just need to get this. The tea would do it too. I'm just getting this out of me.
Drink your,
Mm.
take the hot coffee, sometimes heat.
Yeah.
They told me, like, with the allergy stuff, try heat. These are
Yes.
the,
I'm an old Jewish man, and I get up in the morning. If I haven't talked for an hour before the show, the phlegm is
no, but also,
waiting there for
my
me.
friend who has really bad allergies said for us, like, these next 2-3 weeks are the worst.
Yeah.
Because everything's blooming, it's the worst, like, trigger,
No, but this is not allergy. This is just old man phlegm.
Oh, okay.
Old man phlegm, that old man phlegm.
So, are
His
you gonna,
green and drippy. What? Sorry.
you just,
I'm an old man with phlegm and drool.
David, go get your bib.
All right. No, so if you want to watch or what?
Dandruff.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for. Nobody would have seen it, but you have to mention it.
No,
I've got. Oh yeah.
no, I doubt
It's
that.
on there?
I doubt that.
All right. Double hernia both sides. Copyright 1980.
Wow.
Sung to the melody of David Bowie's TBC 1-5.
Let's hear it. I'll just play my drums.
I'm not going to sing it. I'm not going to, because I've got another song to sing
like
later.
Shatner.
Like, the ice is chilling me and the price is killing me for a double hernia. A hernia both sides. The itch and burning of a hernia both sides. You kind of have to hear it while thinking of David Bowie's TBC 1-5. Right now I should be skiing. It hurts to think of peeing with this old hernia on both my left and right, my double hernia, my hernia both sides. Precision, snip, snip, excision, rip, rip, division, incision.
It reminds me of Wendy's poetry.
You
know how Wendy writes?
Yeah.
Like in the poetry, like with your...
Well, it's all about a man getting over a horrible hernia.
Experience, yeah.
What took me most unawares was shaving my baby hairs. I always loved that line.
Did they shave you?
What a hernia!
Oh my god.
Well, actually, no. I was young enough. The first one, there was no need to. They probably. I imagine they had to shave me when they did the last one, the one you were there for.
They just stuck in the tubes.
Really? Well, I'll come when they put me on the thing. They didn't have a person come down and shave.
What do you think it is? Like Brazilian waxing by Olga? I mean,
well, it's not that they're doing a laparoscopic thing across my belly. I imagine they would have to.
You're so hairy, they'd have to wax you for months.
Moving is such a bother. I walk like my grandfather. To tell the truth, I'd rather stay in bed and die. See?
Oh, did you take a lot of painkillers when you were writing that?
This was years later. I was fine.
Oh, okay.
This was after.
I'm still asking.
This is after my first hernia, but before my second. But all I'm saying is, if kids, I did give a trigger warning before the Ipecac thing because just in case, I said, look, if people have eating disorders or something like, or you just don't like gross things, leave the room, close your eyes, whatever.
Yeah.
But then I showed it, but I expected everybody to be hysterical.
This is your issue. You can't assume that your point of reference or your perspective is everybody's. I think that's limited. That's limited.
Well, because this is, Family Guy. They all knew who Family Guy was. I mentioned, I swear to fucking God, there are kids in there who don't know who Jimi Hendrix was.
Of course.
Jimi Hendrix. And I asked them, because I want to show a Marx Brothers movie, because that's the kind of teacher I am. I want to show a Marx Brothers movie this coming week.
Yeah.
And I asked them how many people have never heard of the Marx Brothers. And in one class, pretty much everyone raised their hand that they never heard of. And I've never seen a Marx Brothers movie, or all the way through.
Yeah.
I've never heard of the Marx Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of vacuum?
Because their parents are probably younger than we are. They don't have.
Well,
their parents don't have that experience.
But I'm. How do you know? By the time I was born, Chaplin was still alive. Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton was actually probably still alive when I was. Harold Lloyd had, I think, passed on. But I knew who these people were, I knew who F. Scott Fitzgerald was before I read him.
You can't expect everyone to have the same point of view. I think that's your problem.
I guess. Or even if they had no idea who Family Guy was. People vomiting on each other, it's not it's a cultural...
A lot of people don't find that funny.
How? How you not find that
Because people
funny?
are normal. They're like normal. They're not abnormal.
So, but this is amazing. I gave them the choice because after seeing that,
Yeah.
I realized that I might absolutely have disaster on my hands if I forced them to watch a full Marx Brothers movie, even the greatest Marx Brothers movie of all, and what is very often considered the greatest comedy of all time, Duck Soup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm figuring, they've worked so hard all semester, and they've written a lot, and they've done all this. Let's take a day, since we've been dealing with comedy throughout most of the course. It's a writing class and a literature class. Let's
Drink Coke.
yeah, let's have them watch that. There we go. Let's have them watch for fun. The Marx Brothers at their absolute apex, at their zenith.
Yeah, you mentioned that many times.
And now I realize, and I realized last week, I'm like, this is going to be, I better not do that. Because they're just going to sit there hating it, hating me, bored, not laughing. They're going to think, like everything else, I can, it's old. Oh, the writing is, this was written, this feels old. They don't want to read Chaucer, they don't want to read Moliere, they don't want to read Dorothy Parker, it's old. So they're going to watch Duck Soup, which astonishes me, is now like 90 years old. So I said, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to just take a day and you'll write in class and do the stuff that you're working on, like the essay that's due and all the things? Do you want to watch the movie? And the compromise is like, and it wasn't my time, they just suggested, well, look, those of us who want to watch the movie, we'll sit there and watch the movie. And those of us who want to work, we'll just sit there and work or look at our, I said, all right, you can't look at your damn phones. But if you want to work, fine. Or give the movie 10 minutes, and if you hate it, start working. Yeah. And I know I'm going to sit there like 20 minutes into the film, and I'll be the only one watching it. Huh? It just breaks, it doesn't break my heart. It just makes me depressed,
Yeah, but I think you have to switch your lens. You can't assume that your lens is the lens of anybody.
But do you know how many shit movies I had to sit through in school back in the day and pay attention to? You just did. If something was assigned, you watched it.
Not everybody. You're taking your own personal lens. Not everybody did it then either.
I mean, well, there were no phones to distract. There was no computers there. You either sat there and went into your own head, which I'm sure some kids did, or stared out the window. Yeah. But, if they showed you a 20-minute documentary about car accidents, or they showed you something about the human intestine and how it flows, and you watched it. It was on a sick day. You were grateful that it was 20 minutes when the teacher wasn't talking or making you do other work. Oh, a movie. Oh, wow. Now
that
it's
was
like
your perspective, not everybody's.
I guess it wasn't. Oh, I'm mad. Ooh, I get mad. Ooh. So that's the Ipecac story and what is leading up to. So I mentioned we have a Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We have Rabbi Saul Solomon with a story doing the secret Seder. Ooh. We have Greeley Crimes in Old Times. And if you notice, Pooey, our friend Pooey is up there. We have Potato wearing a protective cap. And we even have, I haven't been able to show this yet, we have with us our recently acquired toy toilet, including fake poo that my wife designed just to go into the toilet so one wouldn't feel lonely.
Oh, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen.
It's not real poo.
On this episode of Dave's Gone By, wait, I've got to do the setup. Of course I've got to do the setup.
What?
Of how I came to write the song.
Oh, yes.
So, should I do that closer to when I do the song?
No, I think you should do it now, and because it's so entice people.
This is incredibly important. This is a song I have, I have tons of these things in my head, and things that go on for years, sometimes decades, right? And it occurred to me many years ago, wouldn't it be funny if there was a parody of the Jerry Jeff Walker song, Mr. Bojangles? Because it's a very catchy song. Everybody knows. You know Mr. Bojangles, right? It's a walk down, down. Right. So the first thing that came to my mind was a new title, calling him not Mr. Bojangles, but Mr. Poodangles. Right, okay. I'm like, well, what can I knew it had to do with excrement somehow. And I just have this image of a guy who couldn't complete a bowel movement.
Evacuate his bowels.
Right. But it's half in, half. You ever have that where you're waiting for it and it's
in my life, David, I've had every malady.
Yeah, there you go, right?
From both ends.
This is a merry malady. So, but you have it and it won't go back in, right? And at the same time, even if you don't want to do the pincers with your anus because you figure it's gonna come out, but it isn't, right? And then you've got to kind of wipe half and half.
What is that called? Is that a condition?
Constipation, kind of.
Oh, okay.
It is sort of a.
And you sang that? No, that was the Constipation Blues, right?
Well, that Constipation Blues is by Screaming Jay Hawkins.
Yes.
That's a classic. And I have written songs. Over the years, I've written songs about excrement. Many of them.
A lot of them.
I've written 3, maybe 4 songs about enemas alone.
What's the one where he put a estrog up his tuchus?
Oh, that was just a poem. That was Rabbi Saul.
Okay.
Rabbi Saul's his own limericks. In order to brighten his sukkahs, Reb Mendelssohn hired 3 hookahs. They pulled on his payas and sat on his face and jammed an etrog in his tuchus. Yeah, he wrote that. That was Rabbi Saul. That was not me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So foolish.
Amazing how I remember that after 30 years. So, but I've written Enema Blues. Rightfully enough, the Enema Blues was the first song that I really wrote.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote some things when I was a little child. But in my teen years...
Sing it. Give me a...
Well, this was the one. This was the thing that unlocked my creativity. And 300 songs later,
Oh, God.
some of them serious, most of them ridiculous.
Did you sing this with your moist sheep?
It was back when we were the Fish Heads,
Oh.
and I was like hearing something like the Goodbye Blues or whatever, and I just
Who was the singer?
Scott. And I sang some like he took. I sang backup. We all sang backup on it. It was a standard 4-bar blues, but the idea of it that came to me for no good reason except I loved the idea of enemas.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 13 years old.
Did you have enemas in you? Like you had?
As far as I know, I've never had an enema in my life.
Okay.
And so maybe when I was asleep waiting for the hernia, I was surprised they didn't give me one when I had the hernia 20-something years ago.
You wanted one.
I begged them.
You requested one.
Nurse, here's $5.
Excuse me, I'll give you a nice tip. Can anyone give me I need a Coca-Cola animal.
But it made me laugh, the idea that the first time I heard about it, thank you for reminding me of this, it was my Uncle Nay.
Oh, could you constantly ask my mother about it?
Well, because she was a nurse, so I joke with her about that. But it was on my mother's side, my Nathan Balmuth, my uncle, which sounds like bowel movement, but
Yeah,
Nathan Balmuth,
Balmuth in Russian is hippo.
Is it really?
Balmuth.
Oh, a behemoth. I'm like,
Balmuth,
yeah.
I remember like Master and Margarita or one of the Russian Bulgakov, I think, plays. My instructor was, she did
More like Bulgakov.
Yeah, it was like it meant like some kind of hippo or something.
Yeah, but so he loved jokes. He was the equivalent to my dad's father, to my grandpa Sam. They both loved humor. They loved jokes.
Oh, okay.
But Uncle Nay,
not genealogically. You just mean in taste.
Okay. Although Nay was a little more of the world-ish.
Yeah.
Grandpa Sam loved poetry. Was quieter.
He was more dirty.
Not dirty, but he just was a little more. A little more worldly, maybe.
A little more Family Guy.
So, but Uncle Nay, he once told this joke about the guy who was in the hospital, and somehow his charts get crossed up. I may not be telling this the way. I'm sorry, I got the throat clearing. But
are you thinking about the play from the Philippines where they give the guy the enema and he doesn't have the walker?
Right. This is based on an old joke of this idea of the nurse comes in, gives an enema. Half an hour, another nurse comes in, sees the chart. Another nurse comes in, sees the chart, and then finally says, "Who are you, friend or enema?" And I didn't laugh because I had no idea what an enema was.
Of course.
And so Mom and my Uncle Nay explained it, and I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. The idea that people would choose to have...
You have some kind of fixation with the butt pooping.
Oh, I'm totally toilet fixing. I've always been. I have a fecal, anal, not anal in that
we
way,
need
but
Freud to come in.
and then the idea that there are people who find enemas sexually erotic.
I don't think
That I mean, I learned that much later. That was like, whoa, that blew my mind. It blew everything out. But so enemas became very important to me.
I have to get
Enemas duty, anything like that. And so when I wrote my first song as a semi-grown-up, I created the Enema Blues. The lyrics you will also find at davelefkowitz.org. And that became the signature song of the band I was in called Stephen Fish and the Fabulous Fish Heads. And if you want to know more about Stephen Fish, go into the archives of this program, because he's been on the show a few times. But so I wrote that song. And I wrote another song called This One's For You, which was a parody of Elton John's Your Song. Is it Your Song? Yeah. And it was all about a man who was giving a beautiful, loving gift to his girlfriend, an enema. I have a sick personality. I do. And I've written, I think, one or two more songs mentioning enemas since then as well. They are important. It's all. And that's my kind of comedy. There's a reason I did a brown number 1. There's a reason I have a brown number 2 up there. There's a reason I have fake poo literally in the toilet here. And real poo in my underwear. So parody songs have always been important to me. I was writing them before Weird Al Yankovic ever even got on Dr. Demento. And writing about these kinds of things. And many years later, it's probably the 1990s when it occurred to me, oh, wouldn't Mr. Bojangles be great if I could think of something like Mr. Poodangles? But all I could think of was the title. All I could think of was, I've got the name, and I've got an idea of a guy who can never complete a bowel movement. He's always halfway in the middle of it.
Man.
Poor guy. And it's a sad, Mr. Bojangles is a sad song, right? And it's about a has-been, it's about a guy who was but never was and never will be. And now I've got this, and 3 decades go by. And then Joyce and I go away, and this always happens like when you go away. You get away from all the stuff that's normally around you, and things open up.
But I think also you experience like new things, and you see new things, and like you had your cup of bacon, you know.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's what
you do.
did it. I think the cup of
There's a
bacon.
reason couples who haven't had sex for like 10 years, they go to a hotel on the Riviera or something, suddenly they're banging like newlywed bunnies, right? It's just you get away from
Responsibility.
what's all around you.
Do you want me to go down and make you a tea?
Yeah.
Because I'll make myself. I also, the allergies now, yesterday everybody was saying their eyes were itchy.
Yeah.
And today I feel like there's sand in my eyes.
Today my ass is itchy. It's literally like, you don't want to smell this finger. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm fine. No, I was actually joking. My
Okay.
ass is, my anus is perfectly great.
Let me go make the
And looking forward to Mr. Poodangles. But
Don't you
that,
wanna get back?
so we go away last week, or 2 weeks ago now, I guess it was, to Norfolk, Virginia. We talked about this last week, to a conference that Joyce has in beautiful Norfolk, Virginia, about 200-something miles southwest, I guess, of here. Or maybe southeast. Anyway, and we're right on the water, and it's beautiful. We have this nice hotel. It's great. But the experience of getting away is one thing. So it opens up passages in your mind that probably were constricted for years because just everything else is getting in the way. But, and this is the magnificent thing, we are driving, not we are, we take sort of a car service because we only deal with Amtrak and we don't want to fly. So we splurge for a car to take us from Maryland to Virginia. It's a long trip. It's supposed to be about 4.5 hours. It took nearly 6 going because of so much construction and traffic cones, and there was a fire, and so over 6 hours. And the driver's like, look, if you guys at some point need to stop for the usual reasons people need to stop, let me know. And sure, it is part of the thing. And we're in the car for about 2.5, 3 hours, and we're thinking, okay, where should we go? Yeah, you do this all the time. Is there a particular place we go? Because we got used to, when we first moved from New York to Maryland, and we were taking cars back and forth. We got to know the rest stops in New Jersey along the way. There's one named after Joyce Kilmer. There's another. I mean, we'd go with these, one way each way. We'd stop at the rest stop. We'd use the facilities. I'd grab some surprisingly decent burger or something to eat and fries, and we'd all share fries and stuff. It'd be great. But now we were hitting different rest stops and rest opportunities. So we asked the driver. He says, well, we're seeing all these signs. What do you recommend? What do you usually like to stop for? Because you're the guy who has to drive us. You're the guy who's sitting in the car, not just 6 hours with us, but you had to get to us in the first place, and then you got to go home. I mean, this guy's probably driving anywhere from 10 to 14 hours that day. What would you like to eat? He says, well, my favorite of all the things is Bojangles. Not KFC, not the dreaded Chick-fil-A, but Bojangles. He said, oh, they do the breaded, the fried chicken thing. Bojangles, that's my thing. So I have never eaten in one. Joyce, of course, being a vegetarian, and even before that, has never eaten in one. I don't know if we spent most of our lives in New York, and then in Colorado. I didn't encounter a Bojangles to even eat there. So I said, okay, if we pass one, we'll go. We did not end up passing, or I think we passed one after we'd already stopped and eaten somewhere else. But the idea was that the driver was just raving about Bojangles chicken. Not that it's the greatest meal he ever had, but it's real good. That would be his choice. So okay, Bojangles is in my mind. And it starts getting the old song Bojangles in my head. Mr. Bojangles. Fine, no big deal. All right. That's one. You know how this thing, like certain things in the universe kind of conflate to bring you to a place where it wasn't in your mind, and now everything is pointing you to this. And then, unfortunately, I'm sort of forgetting. I wish I wrote about it. If you go to davelefkowitz.org, as I had you do before, let me just find it. I'm so glad I wrote about this because I've literally already forgotten. But under the actual song, which may be posting already, I think it just went up on the site. A few days later, I will read this to you. On April 18th, to be exact, 4 days ago, Joyce and I are back home. And we're wandering around Home Goods, which is kind of like this Kohl's Marshally place that's in a local outside mall thing. So I gravitate, as always, to the clearance aisles. Oh! Don't go. That's what I wanted to do. Don't go away. Hon, can you bring up the pink purple box that's in the snacks drawer? This is, sorry about that, folks, but it just occurred, just reminded by reading this. So Joyce and I are back home and wandering around Home Goods, where I'm looking, of course, for the clearance aisles. Because if you don't go down the regular aisles, but at the end of them, they put stuff that's usually discounted by, 30 to 50%, including edibles and snacks and chocolates and things like that. And they had a lot of post-Easter candies, chocolate eggs, jelly eggs, little display things that were, overpriced at the time, and now were somewhat reasonable prices. So I'm looking through them, as I always do. I always look, hey, I see the word clearance, my eyes already be like, ooh, okay, what's this? One of these clearance displays has chocolates, candies, and marked down on the box from $5.99, which is a little much, to $3 for a little box of not so little, a decent-sized box of truffly chocolate of higher level. We're not talking about Russell Stover stuff. We're talking about a better level of chocolatier confectionery. Here's a box that Joyce is gonna bring up and show us. A small purple box. I could not make this up. So let me first remind you, as I build up the excitement, as I build up the tension in this. Let me remind you that you're watching Dave's Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my wonderful wife Joyce, who is bringing up a hot tea for me to try and get rid of this throat that I've got.
It's very hot. I dropped my soda bottle.
There we go. Here, let me take it.
Take it. It's very hot.
I got it. I got it by the handle, and perfect timing. Unbelievably
I
perfect
gotta go
timing.
clean up the
Okay.
soda bottle.
Oh,
It's very hot. Be careful. Don't burn yourself.
thank you, babe.
Really hot. I made a lot of honey and your syrup.
Thank you. I'm just having a little bit of a. Understand that I've never heard of this company. Okay, understand that this is completely and utterly new to me. Maybe you have, I have not. But 4 days after we're on the road, looking at signs, waiting for Bojangles chicken, I'm in this store, this Home Goods, browsing through the comestibles clearance aisle, when I find this box. Yeah, look at that. What is it? I can't remember. You are about to have a gloriously chocolatey moment. It's a Monty moment. A Monty moment. And no, I was not kidding. Look, on sale, because this is how I roll. On sale for, it looks like $25, doesn't it? It's $2. Woo! $2 marked down from $5.99. And they're very tasty and very good. One of them has a little orange peel in it. It's like orange and chocolate. That doesn't do anything for me. But one is pistachio, that's very good, and one is regular truffle. Why am I telling you this? Because look at the name on the box. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, the box is from a brand called Monty Bojangles Spring Sensation Chocolates. Oh, thank you ever so much, babe. Yeah, the ice is hot?
No, you're burning it. Don't burn yourself.
Yeah, no, I just had a little sip, which is good, and then I had to put it down, but it's good. Thank you very much. And
You
some
want
ice.
an ice cup?
Yeah, I'll bring it up. What are you doing? Here.
I'll
Hold
give
on.
you. I think only
I
one.
don't think there's room in there.
Just one will fit.
Yeah.
You could drink it, but I want you to have some so you don't. I need to clean my glasses. I can't see.
So, Monty Bojangles, 4 days after talking relentlessly with this, not relentless, but for a while with this driver about Bojangles chicken. This was a sign from God, or the universe, or fate, that I had to write this song. There was a thing of like, why suddenly now is Bojangles coming at me? Bojangles chicken, Bojangles chocolate. Dave, this is it. You have to write the Mr. Poodangles song. And so that afternoon, when we got back from the store, I sat down and I had all these papers to grade. And I had planning to do and PowerPoint slides for school the following week and all this other stuff and housework things. I was like, no, Dave, this is the moment. This is the moment that you finish Mr. Poodangles.
You gonna play it?
I'm gonna try. You know what? Let me do it.
Drink a little. Drink of them. Have the.
Have the tea. I'm having the tea.
Do you want to, when you do it? Do you want to have the?
No, I don't want it to be distracting. I think me and Pooey's behind
Maybe
me.
just put this like in front. So.
I wrote it, and then a day later,
Yeah.
I got the backing track of a karaoke version of it, because it's not the nitty gritty dirt band, but
Karaoke version, Mr.
of Mr.
Yeah.
Bojangles.
You need.
I'm great. I'm great. I know.
Wait.
Yeah. Very
Give it to me.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I did a lyric video of the song, which I'll probably play at the end of the show. But I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful? Wouldn't it be great if I did for you on Dave's Gone By an actual live performance of Mr. Poodangles.
I'm doing left-handed.
Well, that's how I do it. Okay, so Joyce has got it. She's going to accompany on the. Well, that'll be a little much. That'll be, but the.
Wait.
Well, no, you'll hear the music. I'm going to play music under me, and you're going to
Under you.
accompany it. We're going to see how this goes. If it doesn't go too well, it's okay. I'll play the lyric. I'll show the lyric video at the end of the program. But here it is. I finished it.
This is unplugged. This is like, I remember when
Yeah.
MTV used to do their unplugged thing, and they used to just do it when I think Kurt Cobain did The Man Who Ruled the World, or
Oh yeah. That was MTV had the whole series out. Dylan did one.
yeah.
I think Neil Young did one. Everybody did one, and one of the best was Nirvana. People weren't expecting Nirvana to rock, and then Kurt Cobain did that. Where were you last night? It was like his last defining moment as a rock singer, and then he put his toe on the trigger.
Well, my favorite thing is the rescue adopted a dog, and they named him Kurt Cobain because he kind of looks like he has blonde hair. He's all like the little Yorkie. And
Yeah.
they made a shirt. He wore a shirt on Rolling Stone that said, corporate music still sucks, right?
Yeah.
And so they made one for the dog, and it said corporate shelter still sucks.
Oh,
That was cute.
I didn't see that. I didn't get that. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is just about 10 o'clock in the morning here in the Daverhood, and you are now witness to the actual debut of a brand new song in the Daverhood for Dave's Gone By. It's sung to the melody of Jerry Jeff Walker's Mr. Bojangles, and it's called Mr. Poodangles. I'm going to do my best here. All right, let's see. I met a man, Poodangles, in a porta-john, and he was in pain. He said that he'd been sitting there all afternoon, dead tired from the strain. He started to cry. I asked him why, and then he explained, when I was young so long ago, I had some beef that stuck in my gut, and ever since I've been backed up with no relief. It's ruptured my butt. The poor man did shout, it's half in, half out, and my anus won't shut. Mr. Poodangles, Mr. Poodangles, Mr. Poodangles, squeeze. He said he spent $10,000 on Dulcolax and all kinds of lube, but still he's got a wad of turd that won't go back or drop from his tube. Lamenting his trials, he kneels on the tiles, and he shows me his piles. Mr. Poodangles, Mr. Poodangles, oh, Mr. Poodangles, pinch. The last time I saw Dangles, he was skin and bones, but still on the bowl, sore and sad and bleeding bad and all alone. With his unwholesome hole. And yet he still pushed on his mush. But it clung to his tush. They tell me Pooh was buried in the Portaloo. His final request, they sent him off with flowers and a charming roll. And all the towels he missed. And when the earth dropped, everyone stopped. Did they hear a plop? Mr. Poodangles, Mr. Poodangles, oh, Mr. Poodangles, rest. And that was.
It was touching.
Yeah.
You know what you have to do? Bring the. No.
Hold
Look
on, I just
against
need
the
to-
wall. Look against the wall. You have to.
Yeah.
You did it without breaking into laughter. You did great.
I was close. I was.
Yeah, but you did great.
I-
You held
I
it together.
managed.
Yes.
I
You
don't
really
always.
did. Let me know if you need more ice. I mean, that was very touching.
It was touching my perineum, actually. It was that is the brand new song, Mr. Poodangles. Well, also, as I said, I'm going to post a video on YouTube, but just the lyric video of it, because I can't imagine that they would allow.
It infringes so many things. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know who might like it? Maybe like you
No
should
one.
go to like a gastroenterology conference.
Yes.
Like, you know, you could be like, you know how these conferences try to like, because they're so academic and dry, they try to get like performers or like comedians. Maybe you could go to some like roast or dinner of like gastroenterology people.
And
you could
sing
be a performer, yes.
Mr. Poodangles for them.
But do it like Shatner.
Yes.
You know, that would be like, you know, go out in a tux and be like, you know,
Mr. Poodangles.
Yes, I think that'd be great.
Squeeze. Yeah, that would be.
Yes,
Thank you.
I think it would be great.
Send your comments and complaints to davesgoneby@aol.com. davesgoneby@aol.com. And you can also post, of course, your commentary and your dysentery on Facebook under, right under the show or
I
message
think,
me.
like pooing and peeing and vomiting are, unfortunately, they're experiences that most of humanity shares.
Yes.
So when you hear a song about any bodily function like that, people kind of can relate because either they've had an animal, a pet who did it, or a friend or family member. So these are like universal
Yeah.
experiences.
But what's interesting, I've written a lot of songs about
Yeah.
poo and things,
Yeah, you have.
but not constipation. This is about a man who can't complete.
The enema blues.
Well, yeah, anything enema is
Yeah,
for people who need to.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. Those are
This is kind of somebody in medias res, right? They're in the middle of the act and they can't.
right.
It's like.
He's in media, can't get no rest.
No,
Yeah.
but it's like it's like spinning your wheels. That kind of
Yeah.
feeling of
Yeah.
like. To me, it's a song about like man's frustration, or the human condition
Yes.
of frustration, where you can't go forward, you can't go backward, and you're stuck.
It's spaghetti.
Yes.
Forget
It's
waiting
like
for
waiting
Godot.
for Godot.
Waiting for Godot. Yes, indeed.
Go doo doo.
Rear end game. Yes. Oh my
I can't
goodness.
believe you didn't laugh through it. That's a miracle.
I was close. I was close when you handed me the toilet paper. At that point, I was like, I almost lost it.
You wipe your, like.
Mm.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, and as I
And
said,
I think for him,
yeah.
like when he would be buried, the salute would be the toilet flushing. Like some Marines, they have the bugle or whatever. Like it would be
Yeah.
the toilet.
and I love the beautiful idea that it has It's a very sad song, but it has a happy ending. Finally, after he's buried and the casket goes down, you suddenly hear the plop.
But that's not actually true, because if he was impacted and he died, he would do it at the time of death.
Oh, as soon as he
it
went,
would be there would be the bottle. He would
But
extremely.
not Mr.
Not
Poodangles.
Mr. Poodangles, because he had so much problems.
Right. It wasn't
What did
until
he just ate meat. Like
he had a piece of bad beef that stuck in him for years.
They
And
do
it's,
say that could happen though. Like food, if
Well,
you
people
have slow
get-
digestion,
people get it, and he is Mr. Poodangles. He's special.
What's his first name?
Oh, I don't know, because Bill Bojangles Robinson
Yeah.
inspired the song that
I know.
Jerry Jeff Walker wasn't about Bill Bojangles, but it was inspired by the idea of a guy who called himself Bojangles, probably after Bill Bojangles. But I don't know if it's Bill.
It's like a lot of the
Yeah.
performers and stuff who got just chewed up, right? Didn't Chaplin die penniless? And,
No, not Chaplin. Chaplin did fine. Well, some of the silent comedians did, of
yeah,
course.
and a lot of people, this idea of being mismanaged or
How about like on Dukes of Hazzard, Enos Poodangles? No.
No, I think it should be something different. I don't know. I can't think of it.
Well, you can send in your suggestions for the first name of Mr. Poodangles to davesgoneby@aol.com. And remember, speaking of Dave's Gone By, our archives are at davesgoneby.com. So you can watch the very first episode we ever did, the episode we did last week, episodes we did 10 or 12 or 15 or 19 years ago. They're all there. The first 15, 16 years were, of course, audio only. We're a radio program. And then the last 5 years, we've been doing this with video. Whatever it is, our archives are at davesgoneby.org. You can also find them, sometimes in even better quality, actually, going to archive.org. We have a page on this site, archive.org. And just like on our website, we have separate archives. So if you want to listen to the whole shows, they're there. Or if you're just looking for the interviews that we've done, we've got a separate archive of that.
Do you need
as well.
ice, honey? Do you need anything?
No, I'm great. I'm great. This is just the right temperature now.
Yeah, because you need I feel better with it too. I was very itchy.
And what you'll find on davesgoneby.org is a whole separate archive of our songs. So you can just find, starting like today, Mr. Poodangles that you can listen to, as well as, I don't think we ever did Hernia both sides on the show, but other songs that we've done on Dave's Gone By will be there too.
Yeah.
And you'll find all my song lyrics at davelefkowitz.org. Well, it is about 10 after 10 in the morning Eastern Time. Wasn't that worth waiting for?
It was beautiful. I tried to cry, but my eye is so crusty from irritation. I think I felt a little tear well up in my crusty eye.
I cried. What's the great line? I cried so much the tears rolled down my legs.
Wow.
No, that's yeah.
Is that pee-pee?
Probably yes.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Or in Mr. Pooh's
Sometimes
case.
like when I have to go wee at school and people are making me laugh, I'm like, please don't make me laugh anymore. I'll wee.
Yeah,
Like
well.
I don't want to wee when I'm laughing, but I felt like the urge to pee when I laugh, but not when I cry. When I cry, it's not that.
Yeah, no.
It's not that productive.
Oh no, I laughed so hard the tears rolled down my legs. That was the lie.
I understand that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Thank God it's never happened, but
Oh, you're young. You're young. Anyway, the show is still relatively young. We still have much more to do on this episode. Our 891st of Dave's Gone By. We're calling it Dang Me in honor of Mr. Poodangles. We have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, where we're going to Hillrose, Colorado, as well as StoryTime.
Greeley time.
Yeah, we want to do Greeley Crime. You okay?
No, I couldn't say Greeley crimes in old times.
We haven't done that yet. We're going to do, if you're ready for it, we're going to do Greeley Crimes in Old Times right now. Let me explain what that is.
Let me tell you something. If you
Yeah.
drop one of these bottles, they will blow. I dropped the bottle like this and a little bit squirted out because I didn't have the cap.
Oh,
on
it
the
don't
thing.
bring it blow up or break
No,
her.
just
Oh.
I kind of cleaned. That's what I was doing down there. What are
So-
we doing now? Greeley crimes.
Greeley Crimes in Old Times, based
Where's the
on.
one of the tree attacking? Hold on.
This is it. This is all the ways a tree
Okay.
can kill. We'll have the screaming goat if you want. Well. So I was looking for this story online at the Trib, and you can find this story still on the Trib's website, but they don't have the picture, which is kind of the whole point of the thing.
I think so. I think they're afraid the tree might hurt
Attack him,
you
yeah.
know.
He's identified. They don't even put a
That tree
mask
looks
on him.
mean. That tree looks mean.
Look at
Let me see.
Yeah, look.
I mean, Wendy and Fred sent you this.
I know.
What good friends do you have that Friendy sent you this idea, like?
Because this was just after we moved.
And then who does that? Like, what artist says, "Let me get a tree and put a machete in his hand and make a hand"?
It's signed by somebody, but I can't make out.
Oh, let me see.
Can you make it? It's right by the knife, or is that just? That's like a signature. That's just a
No,
smudge.
that's an imprint. Nobody took credit for this site. I don't see any. It's
Well, the writer has credit. Does it say illustration by?
no.
Wow.
Continued on A14. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, anyway, unfortunately, you can't find that
And they're
magnificent
all
picture.
stories about people who were doing gardening and got
Got killed by their It's a
I guess it's a
hysterical.
moral allegory, right? I don't know.
Anything can kill you, But point is, this is, believe it or not, a real newspaper, and with real news in it. But they have fun once a week with two different columns. One is called Cop Log, and these are actual calls that come into the local police department from people who see bad stuff going on in the neighborhood. And then they also have 100 years ago. You okay?
I'm trying to make it like it's.
Ooh.
That's how you hear the sound when it goes. It's
Yeah.
not consistent.
Yeah, you never know where the siren's coming from. So, and Cop Log, which are, no, that was Cop Log, and then 100 years ago, which are items that were in the paper
Could you
back in
do
1924.
100 years ago with the screaming goat? Because that would be the appropriate sound for for them. Like child labor, someone getting killed in an automobile accident, Seems like the goat would protest that.
But even the 100 years ago ones are not dark and like, oh my God, a woman was stabbed. These are, the 100 years ago ones are cute little items that were in the paper 10 decades ago. We mixed them up and we turned that into a segment on Dave's Gone By that we like to call Really Crimes and Old Times. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Greeley Crimes and Old Times on this episode, April 22nd, 2023.
I can't believe we're done in April. What the
Yeah, I know, right?
I feel like I said to somebody yesterday, like they were in the copy room, it was another GA, she was lovely. And I said, yeah, like you've been working on this a couple weeks. And she's like, yeah, I have to get it done by the 28th. I'm like, oh, you have lots of time. She said, I have a week. I was like, huh?
But anytime you think that time is moving fast, just remember, imagine if you were starting the semester over again. And then you realize just how much time is.
How much time is gone,
Yeah. So, here we go. Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Are you ready for some criminality, my darling? Are you ready for people behaving badly? Here we go.
Yeah.
This happened. Oh, no. This was not even from that section. This was just a real crime that happened in Greeley 2 days ago on April 20th.
Are these the ones that the nice lady gave you, or the ones that you did?
Well, those are done. The ones I did are done. These are
these are from the okay, gotcha.
But this was already a separate story in the Trib.
Oh, not in the.
And it happened. Go figure on 4/20.
8th and 8th. No.
Not 8th and 8th, but on April 4/20.
Yeah, but pot's been legalized so long in Colorado, it's not a biggie.
Well, this isn't so much about pot as something else. On Sunday, so it was written on 4/20 and it happened last Sunday. Greeley police officers responded to 35th Avenue on reports that a man was naked and yelling in the middle of the road.
Wow.
Officers contacted 34-year-old Kyle Wortley.
Why'd they put his name?
Well, this wasn't Cop Log. This was an actual story.
Okay. I'm confused.
Who was naked and loudly yelling.
Officers you can't be naked, though. You could yell loudly. You just got to cover your
just got to cover some, and if you're a man, it's really like a loincloth and you're legal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe like a thong.
Officers noticed Wortley was yelling at his father, who told them his son was on our favorite thing in the world.
What?
Mushrooms.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. How he would know, how a father would know and allow his son to be on mushrooms.
No, he probably doesn't know. A lot of times addiction, you can't stop a person, but you might know what they do.
Do people even get addicted to LSD mushrooms?
Yeah, but you can get addicted to anything. If people get it, the brain, when you mess with your brain chemistry, you're opening up a whole world of hurt. Don't mess with the brain chemistry. You don't want to. But why wouldn't the father then put a towel around his winky? Like, if I was the father, I would cover him.
Right, yeah, or something like, well, a towel is very hard to keep a towel on.
Put on like a stretchy Spanx or something. He couldn't get them off.
Oh.
If you put Spanx or tight pants.
If you have a grown son ranting and raving and yelling.
You could like, look, the mushrooms want you to wear this. This is like a mushroom.
Well,
put a little mushroom, a logo's on the pants, like your mushroom pants.
That would.
You would do it.
I would do it.
Yes.
Yeah, I would do it. I would love to wear mushroom.
Yes.
Have we ever seen mushroom shorts or mushroom?
You have shorts that have flamingos. I mean, I'm sure they have shorts with everything.
Those would be all right.
If you Google on the interwebs, you could find shorts with anything you want.
But here's the deal. Police detained. There's more. Police detained Wardley.
The son, right? The son.
Yeah. Now you figure if you were on meth, or if you were on
mushrooms,
coke, or if you were on what's the one that makes people really freaking uncontrollable and nuts?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, some kind of bad drug.
So here's the deal. He squeezed a female sergeant's right shoulder to cause her pain.
Oh God.
Kicked another officer in the waist.
Oof.
And then, when they were bringing him to the hospital out of the car, to be checked, he kneed another officer in the groin.
Oh my God. That's like a bad day for, ouchies.
Those are some potent shrooms, I gotta tell you.
Well, he's very flexible to do all those
I know, right? Yeah.
I couldn't do any of those things.
Let me grab you. He had horrible arthritis. He took mushrooms, and suddenly he's like wavy man.
He's moving like
This is how he was moving. Hey, Mr. Policeman. Anyway.
That's crazy.
So after a visit to the hospital, he was charged with disorderly conduct and 3 counts of second-degree assault on the police. He was literally hitting and kicking the police. So.
But sometimes you're scared. When you feel this is the thing. When you're out of your mind and you feel people are attacking you, you're trying to survive.
I live my entire life out of my mind and thinking people are attacking me.
No, but physically, it's different when you feel like people are restraining you or attacking you. We get it a lot with people with dementia where one time they called the police on an older man who was trying to attack a nurse because the nurse was trying to force him to do and it's like this person feels you're trying to kill them. They in their mind believe you're, so.
Oh, it's a scary thing. I have 1 or 2 people who are in the RN, and one of my students, or a couple of them, are doing the RN, pre-RN thing, and they got jobs in hospitals. And they said they've been attacked.
Can I tell you
by patients.
This was the weirdest thing to me.
Yeah.
One of the nurses, this was in Colorado. I was on a dissertation committee with her.
Yeah.
And the student nurse's topic was violence in the ER, and I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, people come in, they're out of their mind, maybe on biologically or on medication or drugs. And you're trying to help them, but they feel that you're attacking them. So imagine you have 5 people coming at you, cutting off clothing, putting IV, and you're in pain. Remember Ufti with acupuncture?
Yeah.
When people are hurting you, you lash out. And she's like, the level of violence is they've been, it's a violent,
I remember when Winnie the Pooh kicked Tigger because there was violence in the ER. Thank you very much.
Continue on, honey.
Moving forward.
I dropped my drumsticks on that one. Do you need an ice cube?
No, I'll take an M&M though. Here, let's get back to a regular Greeley crime.
Okay, this is from the paper.
These are all from the paper. But
okay.
A caller said, speaking of 420, the caller said a woman was smoking weed, dancing, and bothering customers for the past few days at a bowling alley on 8th Avenue. Yeah, but here's the deal. She should not have been smoking weed at a bowling alley. She should have been smoking Lucky Strikes. Thank you very much. Get that? Did you get that?
Lucky Strikes is a cigarette, but also Strike is a bowling term.
Right, yeah, I pinned that one. Oh, thank you.
I get it.
Yeah, I got balls. A woman on 28th Street.
Wait.
She said that a man came to her door
Yeah.
asking to use the restroom. It might have been Mr. Poodangles. He also asked her if she had a car and a man.
You got a man? I want to be your man.
Because there's a pickup line if I've ever seen one. Ma'am, I gotta take a shit. Hey, you have anyone in your life?
You looking to date? You have a car? You got wheels? We can have a good time.
Yeah, I need a big roll of toilet paper. And by the way, you want to go dancing?
You have a man. I like that.
You have a man.
Nice.
A man on 8th Avenue
Oh no.
said that his neighbor kept pounding on his door, accusing So the neighbor's pounding on his door, accusing the caller of pointing lasers at a light and shocking the caller.
Hold on.
What is it with the lasers? What is the space lasers and the tin foil? Yeah, I don't. But there was another thing that was kind of like that. Oh yeah, this was even more recent than that. A woman on 4th Avenue said she suspected drug use at the apartment because she was getting static electric shocks that made her feel sick. She wanted to make sure management wasn't doing anything illegal.
I hope not.
Such as shocking people to make them skinny by putting chemicals in the walls.
You know what? If they could shock me and make me skinny, I would go do it right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, just, yeah. And I love it when they start off as like, oh, here's this person.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. They have some trouble.
Hey, let's do some old-timey things. Let's go we went from Greeley crimes, now let's do...
Automobiles.
Some of these are from 100 years
Did
ago.
you want this for a reason, or?
It was all part of the
Okay, I didn't know.
it could come in handy. It could, you never know. Here we are, sorry.
This is old times, correct?
There was a questionnaire.
There was a
Sent across,
questionnaire sent. Da-da-da.
I question you. Here's the deal. They sent this questionnaire across the country, even into Greeley, about spooning.
Ooh. Wait.
So the questionnaire showed that, you would love this is quantitative, showed that regarding educated women, 375 out of 1,000 spooned prior to marriage. 1923 we're talking about. By the way, spooning involves kissing, hugging, and fondling. I can't believe they put that word in the paper 100 years ago. Yeah.
Somebody's very happy about that.
Men were not included in the questionnaire. So it's just went to women. So does that mean they were all lesbian? I kind of wonder about that.
No, they're asking if the women did it because they were concerned about women's practices, probably.
Of the 1,000 educated women who were questioned, 872 proclaimed themselves happy. 22% spooned only with their fiancés.
Whoa!
That means, oh. So what is that? 78%
a lot of people are
real whores. Yeah.
They're what do you call it? Serial spooners.
They were. Oh my God.
Serial spooners.
Tempting twats back in the day. Yes,
Serial
indeed.
Spooners.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And educated women too, because I guess they were, whatever.
There was this whole idea. I mean, I used to talk about it in class. Then, education would shrivel the uterus, shrivel the ovaries. That women would physically have damage. We'd have biological damage from higher education, and that our minds couldn't handle the. Yeah, this was not eugenics, but kind of eugenics. Anti-woman.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I think.
I mean, it's true about Puerto Ricans, but women.
No, but. That's why I think they did that survey to see what the effect of education, would it make women unhappy, would it make them, there were all these bizarre ideas about education.
Was this the 1800s or all the way into the 1900s?
This is all the way, even till now.
Yeah. Oh. Wow.
We got rhetoric going around that's really rough.
All right, let's move on to the phenomenon, and I would know this one, known as being a grouch. And remember, my favorite character on Sesame Street was Oscar the Grouch. But the phenomenon known as being a grouch applies only to men and is a combination of growl and speech. Did not know that. Certainly a man known as a grouch begins every speech with a growl. I don't know if that's true or that's just some cute thing they put in the papers.
I think that's like a joke.
But grouch, I wonder.
Growl?
And speech. So he's growling, I love trash.
Tom Waits?
I like to spoon
Is
with
it like
educated girls.
Tom Waits?
Maybe.
Yeah, like that kind of.
Yeah, maybe. Mr. Poodangles! Yeah, that would be how he would do the song.
That's scary.
The cost of gasoline. Oh, you're going to love this, folks. The cost of gasoline in Greeley, Colorado is increasing.
Whoa.
It's going from, this is actually a huge jump here. What do you think it's going from and to?
It's going from 20 cents to 34.
You're in the right neighborhood. 18 cents per gallon
Wow.
to 23
Wow.
cents per gallon. For that reason, many farmers are coming into town to fill their 100-gallon barrels of gas
Wow.
before the price increases even more.
Don't they use diesel though, farmers? I thought they used diesel.
I thought I would figure truckers, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe in their, I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a good
Maybe.
point. I just know that now, gas is back up to like $3.60. It's freaking nuts.
Because it's summer and people will travel.
Who knows?
When does summer officially start? Are we in summer?
June.
Okay,
we're not
that's
even
what I
we're
thought,
not even
yeah, okay.
close.
Okay.
We're only a month into springtime.
Mhm.
A minister in Denver has proclaimed that if Jesus Christ came to Denver, he would find the city in such bad condition it would make the angels in heaven weep
Wow.
over the, quote, the disappointment of municipal tragedy.
Oh my lord.
Because, that's how St. Paul would have written it. What?
Disappointment of me. That's a really beautiful phrase though.
No, it's not. It's
Municipal tragedy.
senseless. He said child welfare is in danger in the next Denver election.
Remember Cry the Beloved Country? That was the whole idea of people going to the cities, and trying to make a living and leaving the rural areas. And that, like, the cities were just, like,
Sodom and Gomorrah.
shops and people just, like, working. And it wasn't it wasn't the place people wanted to be.
I know Rabbi Saul studied Sodom when he was studying Gomorrah. So it was, no, not quite. Hey, let's go elsewhere. We have a story that isn't from Colorado. We do this most every week. A story that's from elsewhere on the planet, elsewhere in America. And this time we go to Florida for a story in the New York Post. And this is quite wonderful. And there's even video of this. Because, we can even talk about after I read the thing.
Okay.
A passenger on a Southwest Airlines flight to Orlando threw a tantrum last week over a baby throwing a tantrum. Did you read about this? Did you hear about this?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Video was shared on TikTok of the incident, which showed tensions rising as the flight was stuck in holding in Palm Beach owing to bad weather. Frustrated by the infant, the unnamed passenger sounds off at the baby, parents, and the flight attendants, trying to calm the situation that they were. He's just going off on everybody because this is what happens, right? Well, we'll talk about this after, but said the passenger, quote, I paid for, and he's standing up, he's standing in the aisle now, and he's just bellowing, I paid for a ticket to have a fucking comfortable flight. That child has been crying for 40 minutes. The crew then asked him to stop yelling, which
triggered the baby.
made him even angrier. I'm not screaming. Do you want me to scream? I'll fucking scream.
Oh God.
And this is where he goes full on Samuel L. Jackson and like Snakes on a Plane. It was like, and this is absolutely the greatest line ever. And it's true. We are in a fucking tin can with a baby in a goddamn echo chamber. And you want to talk to me about being fucking okay? The passenger next to him tries to get him to calm down. the guy taking the video, he's laughing.
Wait, are they on the air or are they on the ground?
They're on the ground.
Oh.
They're on the ground because they're in holding.
Oh, they're waiting to take off. I understand. Okay.
And then other passengers try to remind him that he's a grown man yelling about an infant.
Yes.
But he continues, and this is classic. He says about the baby, the baby, quote, "Did that motherfucker..."
I don't think the baby is that bad.
No, babies are annoying on an
Yes,
airplane.
but that's like,
Did that motherfucker pay extra to yell? The man replied, and about the baby, quote, "I don't give a fuck. Fuck, lower that baby's voice. Fuck that."
Oh my goodness.
Eventually, the man was surrounded by security and police and escorted off, while still venting about the baby, the parents, and the flight attendants. But I first of all, I feel bad for the parents, of course, because you can't. Yeah, people say, "Well, keep the baby." You can't keep a baby quiet. An infant.
They don't know.
Wants to. People say, "Oh, that's bad parenting." It's an infant.
But also, like, sometimes, like, they don't understand the ear pressure, or they don't, their schedule's off. I think a lot of parents walk them. I've seen parents walk them in the aisles. But
you can't walk a baby. You can't walk an infant.
But you're not allowed to. If they say you have to be in with your seatbelt, maybe if they would let the parent or the flight attendant walk the baby. I mean, when we went to Argentina, remember the mother and grandmother got drunk, you were sleeping, and the kids, there were maybe like 4 and maybe 7, they were running around the aisles of the plane, going through and running and running.
But that's not as bad as like yelling and screaming, though.
No, but the flight attendants, like, they can't do this. You have to, like, these aisles need to be clear. Like, you can't have children doing it. And then the mother fought with the flight attendant. The guy came over and she was like, "I want more alcohol, I want to drink," and he's like, "You've had enough." And she's like, "I want to speak to the pilot." And this was pre 9/11, and he's like, "You are not going to speak to the pilot because you're drunk and you want more alcohol."
Whoa.
He's like, "The pilot is flying the plane. You have to get these kids in order." And and then the grandmother woke up. She was like, "Oh, I'll do it." But it was
wow, yeah.
We've all been, I mean, we took the dogs on the plane. I mean, they didn't bark.
Well, we got lucky. We were terribly worried.
Yeah.
We had them drugged, and we had them in little swaddling clothes, and we kept feeding them just please, it's a 4-hour flight.
Feeling like you can. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Yeah.
Barking. You can't you can't. There's some things that
So obviously the man was wrong, and at the end of his tether, you can't. And there's people posting under the story is like, you shouldn't be allowed to bring children on a flight that are under 5 years old. It's like, what? A grandparent is not going to get to see a baby in another country because you can't bring it.
You have to fly for some emergency.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
One time I was flying to, I think, New Orleans, and I didn't know she was a famous player's wife. It was like one of the football or basketball player's wife, and she had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And her baby was like 1 or 2, was on her lap. She said, "Would you hold my baby?" Because how are you going to pee in a bathroom on the size of a plane with the baby? You can't. Even if the baby was strapped, or she couldn't move. So I was like,
well, it's not like you could go kidnap the baby and run off somewhere with it.
I was like, sure, give me the kid, but it's hard.
It's very But at the same time, at the same level, the man is completely wronged. But there is a level of, this is what you get when you make airline travel so horrible.
It's what I say. It's like going on a Greyhound bus in the sky. You get on. You hope you land okay. It's going to be rough. There's going to be craziness on the plane. There's going to be turbulence. There's going to be delay. Even
before they may get thanks to 9/11 and the Arab terrorists. It's like even before you get on the plane, it's like gotta take off your shoes, gotta do this, and just waiting and grouped together like cattle. It's like, oh, we're changing the gate. You gotta go to this terminal.
Well, the one time this was in Denver, a woman had a rescue pet. She was rescuing a pet. And she went through and gave me her pet, and I'm holding it like, this isn't mine. And the agent's like, you have to screen him. I'm like, it's hers. And she was so befuddled. She wanted to put the pet through the screener.
Oh my.
And the agent's like, you can't do that. People just.
Yeah, because you're like so befuddled and so and the pat downs and this.
You don't want to miss your plane. You don't want to. get
You
to
might
the
have had
gate.
traffic getting there.
Yeah, or
So
if
by
it's
the
a
time you
layover,
even sit on the plane and get your bundle up in the overhead, if they allow you, and
it
our
doesn't
overheads are
fit.
full, we
Yeah,
have to bring it to
yeah,
this.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they make it so fucking miserable.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that used to be glamour. People used to say, like, oh, I'm going on a flight to Aruba or to
People used
Panama.
to dress up. My
Yeah.
grandmother had those airline bags. They were, fancy. They'd give you like a.
And
It was
the coffee tea or me waitresses or stewardesses who were hot and young and beautiful and this, and you give you this, and you want a snack, you want a food. Now it's just like get them in the air. There's no first class. If you want to pay $500 more on certain flights,
You get a
Southwest
seat,
doesn't
a
even.
seat that's a little bigger.
Yeah, which is
I
still
had
shit.
The Reverend. So I told you.
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
flight attendant was flirting with someone. I had migraine, and he's like, my child, are you afraid? Are you afraid of flying? Because I look really sick. I said, I have no fear of flying. I just have a migraine, and I can't. Like, I'm trying to not. Like, it's so light in the plane. When you first take off, it's like super lit. And I was like, I can't manage it. And he's like, what do you need? I'm like, I don't need anything. In the preacher voice, the preacher voice, he's like, sir, and he's directing it to the flight attendant. Could you please stop your engagement with the other passenger and get this woman some water? She has a migraine. The flight attendant was embarrassed because he was outed.
Yeah, he was flirting. Well, literally outed because he was flirting with a guy.
And so he comes over, he brings me like an Evian bottle of water, gigantic thing. And he's like, are you okay? Do you need anything? It's like, I'm fine. And the whole flight, the man was like, if you need anything, you just let me know. I was like,
no. But if you don't advocate, or if you don't at least have someone who will advocate for you, but that's going to create, and it does create this more and more. And remember, it's mentioned in the story very lightly that this, not just on the flight, but the flight hadn't taken off yet. It was 40 minutes and all. You have that thing. Yes.
So there was a conference I didn't go to, but I used to be a member of. And everybody's tweeting saying, we're all delayed, like they're all meeting at the airport and all the flights are delayed and they've been there for like 7 hours and they're all missing their connections. But it's post-conference, so they're all with their friends at the airport. But that's a nightmare. That's a nightmare. Remember when we were in Aruba and we couldn't get out?
I was losing my mind.
Yeah,
we were in paradise and all I wanted to do was get the fuck out of paradise and get home. Because
it was Father's Day when they finally flew us out. Yeah.
But even when we were coming to or back from
where
Norfolk in the car, we had a driver with a nice car. It wasn't a big car, but it was an Audi. It was a pleasant car.
Yeah, no bumps and it was very smooth.
But there was this thing of like it was supposed to take 4.5 hours to drive there. It took close to 6. Because we stopped for food, but that was like 10 minutes. But this thing was when there's these slowdowns and you see the red line on the GPS.
Oh, I know. It just does something.
You just feel like this will never end. We will never. And it's a bottleneck. It's a jam in one car slows.
Like an accident or everything else slows. A fire.
Yeah. And you just feel while that's happening, you just feel like, I want to scream, I want to get out, and then as soon as we get past that little bottleneck, you still have 2.5 hours left in the car.
Yeah.
But now you're moving at 45, 50, 55 miles an hour, and you're like, okay, we're moving, we're going forward. It's that same feeling in a plane when you have a delay. It's kind of like if that baby were crying, but the plane was just sort of in the air going, the guy would have been pissed off. Yeah. But I don't think he would have lost his shit.
You know what they need to do? Like, I remember Delta's song. I was telling a student because she's doing an analysis of like airlines.
Yeah.
Delta's song was like pre-JetBlue. They were competitors. But Delta's song got blown out of the water, I think, by JetBlue. I'm guesstimating. But Delta's song, when you got on the plane, they had like fun music, and they were like, "Here, take a snack." Like it was it was very much like fun. They made it very light and fun. So in that instance, like I know they can't serve like drinks to people, but if I was the flight attendant, I would have given people like cookies or something like.
Or back in the day, they did serve drinks to people. Yeah.
But, maybe because when they take off, they can't have the liquid, Yeah. But go around and give people like. I would go up and down the aisles and say, I'm sorry, is everything okay? Like you have to placate the passenger.
But even if a flight attendant know that you're going to be on the ground for an hour. Before you even, they'll tell the passengers 20 minutes. They really mean 40. Yeah. So and then you can't give them a fucking Coca-Cola or something.
Give them something to
chamomile tea.
But even the eating something would distract people, right? It's like,
yeah.
and then you lower the temperature on the plane when the cold makes people sleep. They're less
Oh,
aggressive. So, play a little music. I'd say, you know what?
I don't want to hear
I
that.
would say, you know what? The Wi-Fi is free. Turn the Wi-Fi on free for everybody, so they can all use the Wi-Fi. Give people something that they could amuse themselves
Which is,
with.
I complain endlessly about how, and I haven't been on a plane in, God, 4 fucking years now, but I complain a lot about how flying is a bust in the air. It's terrible. Meanwhile, we do forget that you can now go on a plane, and as soon as they're up in the air, there's like 50 TV channels. You don't even have to watch the same movie with everybody.
I know, it's so crazy.
If you want to listen to music, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. You can open up your in a lot of ways, and it's not fair.
You can entertain yourself.
If you're on a plane for 7 hours, you can literally watch old episodes of Friends
I
or
always thought it was
Seinfeld.
so weird. I've watched like some movies about plane crashes on planes. I thought
That I'm
why
surprised.
would they do
Yeah.
But I've seen some really good films and really, you know.
But we forget back in the day when it was more glamorous. It's like, okay, we're going to have our in-flight movie,
People
and
would
whether you liked it or not.
And they would smoke. They'd be like, oh,
So it really has. It's funny, we don't necessarily acknowledge the ways that flights have gotten better. Not all flights have those screens on the back, so we got used to JetBlue doing that.
But, if it's international or not.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you want people not to go mad, don't put them in a position. Don't put them in a thing where the plane's not moving. It is a can. The seats are like this. Somebody's feet are in your back. You got no place for your legs. You can't do it. You're not allowed to get up and walk around because you're in a taxi holding thing. I don't know, and it's not quite enough time where they can get everybody off the plane and bring them back. So it's just people are gonna lose it, like this poor guy on Florida. I hope he got a little talking to, and maybe not allowed to fly Southwest again for a year or two. But I hope they didn't arrest him or anything. It's just people lose their shit. They do, and psychologically we can sort of understand why it's happening. By the way, what is happening here is we're watching Dave's Gone By, the Dave's Gone By program with me, Dave Lefkowitz, here on this April 22nd, 2023. It's our 891st episode of the show. We're calling it Dang Me because if you were watching a little bit earlier, you heard the debut of our brand new Dave's Gone By song. It's actually a song, not really Dave's Gone By song, it's a song we're playing called Mr. Poodangles, and we are in the midst of and about to come to the finale of Greeley Crimes and Old Times. It's a mix of cop log and 100 years ago from the Greeley Tribune. Let's go back and do 1 or 2 more crimes, and then we'll move on to Rabbi Saul Solomon and Storytime and our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. And then Joyce and I get to go yard sale.
Do you have the addresses?
Well, you said it was in one whole neighborhood.
No,
right?
but I sent you the
Oh, I
addresses.
haven't looked.
Okay.
I'm excited
You
about
have to figure that out.
my nipples are getting pointy at the thought of all these yard sales.
One, so we gotta hustle.
Yeah, well, yeah. This show won't go probably the whole 3 hours. It's a quarter to 11.
Yeah.
So we got Rabbi Saul with a story, the Limerick, Friends of the Daverhood, whatever else you want to talk about, and then the show is the show.
I think you should do it because if this event is like mega neighborhood, it's only one. So
But we go towards the end, it's like people will be knocking probably down the
but
prices.
also the good stuff is usually in the
I know.
beginning, so it's like a catch-22.
It
We'll
is
see.
what it
We'll
is.
see what we go. We'll see.
A woman said her upstairs neighbor's dog used the bathroom on the patio. I don't think there's a bathroom. I think he used the patio as a bathroom. And it dropped onto her property. Mr. Poodangles. Falling down there.
I like that. That was very surreal.
The woman, however, refused to provide her address to police. So she calls the police to complain that the dog...
I think they can't do anything if you don't identify where you are.
Of course. Not that they would do anything about a dog shitting and comes down on your
Isn't that
property.
like her landlord, right?
Hmm.
Or HOA?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's see, one more. This is cute. A medium-sized bird flew into a house on 27th Avenue and started going crazy.
He was was mad because there was a baby bird crying in his nest.
Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, this bird has flown, and it is time to end this segment, which is called Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Speaking of the Marx Brothers,
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool. I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
What he is getting at is that Mr. Greeley was no fool.
yippee-yi!
Yippee-yi, 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 yi, yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi.
Oh, my friends, what fun we are having on this Saturday morning. Me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, and coming into the day, speaking of grouchy, into the Daverhood. Oh, you okay?
No, I gotta.
Oh, yeah. She has to help the Rabbi with his
I
accoutrements.
didn't hear I was not aware of the cue.
Well, I'll play some music for him as he approaches the bench. So, Rabbi Sal Solomon has been with us since our very first episode of the show, more than 20 years ago. He often does sermons for us. He interviews a lot of our people. And in this particular time, we're letting him take over a segment that we do called StoryTime. I really enjoy these segments because I don't have to create any material. Like, I had to write the Limerick, I had to write Mr. Poodangles.
Yeah.
This is Rabbi Sal reading something somebody else wrote. A week or two after Passover, I brought this book to Rabbi Sal's attention. It's the Secret Seder, a delightful children's book.
Bedtime story.
This is Beatrix Potter,
Mm-hmm.
and Mrs. Pickerel rolled into one.
This is Disney.
It is. Well, actually, modern Disney. But here's the deal. It's Rabbi Sal is going to read to you, with commentary, of course, about the Secret Seder, this book that we found in that book depository, the book.
It's lovely. It's
lending
like
library.
the mini lending libraries. It's such a sweet idea.
Well, it wasn't until Rabbi Sal got a hold of it. So, Rabbi Sal, bring the kiddies, bring the wife, guaranteed to have the time of your life. Rabbi Sal is going to be doing our story time. So let's bring up Rabbi Sal's music and bring him into the Daverhood. Yeah. Hey! Oh, my friends! Shalom, my friends. Shalom, my enemies. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sal Solomon, the founder. I look like Dracula in this. What is this?
It's a scary story, Rabbi.
Oh, you're right. It is. Ooh, scary. Ooh, Jewish. Ooh. My friend Dave, the producer of this program, now it's annoying my ear. I can't have this. Okay. Brought to my attention a book that he and his wife came across. A lovely, delightful, hilarious book called The Secret Seder. I know Passover's over. I know Passover ended a few days ago. What am I, a schmuck? I didn't have this book a few days ago. Now I have it. Now I'll do it. So, if you're a little happy child, you're Jewish. It's time to be a bit unhappy. This is why we read. We read the stories of our past. This is by a woman named Doreen Rappaport. Yes, even in my Orthodox community, we allow women to read and write. I know, there's issues with it, but what we do. And these hilarious and fun illustrations are by Emily Arnold McCulley. So let us go from page to page. Here, of course, we have a man and presumably his son with, they're staring in terror and panic at an egg. That's about as Jewish as you can get. All right, let's dip into The Secret Seder. Ooh. Illustrated, Hyperion Books for Children, New York. And this book is wait, I'm gonna need my bag of glasses. Hold on. Where are they? Where did they go? Uh-oh. Oh, there they are. Hold on. This is the writing is a little bit small for the old Rebbe. So let me put my glasses on. There we go. That's better. All right. Here we go. Copyright 2005 by Doreen Rappaport. Illustrations also copyright in 2005. Printed in Singapore because, who needs to pay American workers? This is the first edition of the Seder, the Secret Seder. For Grandpa Sam and Madison and Olivia and Samara and Stella. The dedication is longer than the damn book. All right, here we go. Oh, it's going to be a fun book when the very first page has Nazis with machine guns on it. Oh, yeah. Oh, because it's never too early to tell your children about the Holocaust. I am walking as far as I can. I have to get home and practice with Mama one last time. I want to run, but Papa says I must never run. It makes people stare. When I get to the cathedral, I slow down. People on either side of me are crossing themselves as signs of respect. I cross myself too. It's dangerous not to. No, yes, already children are learning about fear and hypocrisy and the Holocaust. It's all good. Everyone in the village thinks we're Catholics, but we're only pretending to be. We're really Jews. It's kind of a good excuse there, because if you ever wanted to try shrimp and bacon, you do get a bit of the best of both worlds. Here's a Goyish woman, doing the Jesus thing, and then there's a little boy. There's all right, spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch. There we go. We move on. There's a war going on. Germany is trying to conquer all of Europe. Last year, Adolf Hitler's Black Boot men came to Paris to take the Jews away. Papa and Mama and I escaped in the dark of night. Grandmama and Grandpapa ran away too, but we don't know where they went. Have you looked at the lampshade over there recently? Every day I pray that they are safe. We got out of Paris, but we're still in danger. There are Black Boot men here also. So there's a little kid. He's trying to looking down the street, and there's a cat that could possibly be a Nazi spy operative, or from the early East German Secret Service police, the Stasi. Do we have time to practice, Mama? Mama has been teaching me the 4 questions so I can surprise Papa at the Seder. Where they have a nice kitchen like this, if they're on the run from the Germans in the outskirts of Paris, I have no idea. How they're not hiding in an attic like Anne Frank, this boggles my mind. Yes, she answers, do we have time to practice? The 4 questions. So the kid sings, as we all know from the Seder, Ma nishtana ha'layla hazeh mikol ha'leilot. I whisper the Hebrew words. I just cut that out of the video here. Ma nishtana ha'layla hazeh mikol ha'leilot. It's too dangerous to say them out loud. Mama says the walls have ears. So she's anthropomorphizing the location in order to bring even more fear to her children. Usually, Mama kisses Papa when he comes home from work. Today, she doesn't even look up. What's the matter? Papa asks. They took Mr. Leclerc and his wife and son away today, she whispers. Mr. Leclerc? I didn't even know he was Jewish. Etienne, it's too dangerous to take Jacques to the Seder, Mama says. Papa takes Mama's hands in his. Just being a Jew is dangerous, he answers, teaching children a very important lesson. You should take your 2-year-old and read this to them and show them the scary, sad pictures. This tells you everything you need to know about being Jewish. Mama, please, I plead. We promised Grandpapa that we would celebrate all the holidays, no matter what. Her eyes filled with tears, Papa wipes them away. We will be all right, he whispers. Probably not. Mama pulls me tight to her and she stuffs a roasted egg into my coat pocket. Papa slips a knife into his. This book is getting kind of interesting. Here we go. We walk down our street. When we near Mr. Leclerc's house, I walk faster. Papa pulls me back. Walk naturally so we don't look suspicious, he whispers. My feet slow up, but my heart still races. This is called diabetes onset. We turn one corner, then another, then another. I hear clicking on the cobblestones behind us. Papa yanks me into an alley. The clicking is closer and louder. Papa pulls out the knife. I hold my breath. I pull out my egg. No, that's not. The clicking fades away, but my ears still ring. See, they're hiding from the Jew-hating anti-Semite son of a bitch Nazis. That is not a line in the book. That's a line I would add to the book if I were the publisher. At the edge of the village, we start up the mountain. The thick pines along the path block out the light. But I am not afraid of the darkness, only of the black boot men. Up, up, up we climb. The only sound is the wind. Up, up. Suddenly I hear rustling in the forest. I stop and listen more carefully. The rustling is still there. Is someone following us? I don't think it's Bugs Bunny. Somehow I don't even know this is a children's book. Somehow I don't think it's Bugs and Wile E. Coyote. Is someone following us? Papa seems to read my mind. It's probably a rabbit. Maybe it is Bugs Bunny. I hope he's right. We trudge on. Something snaps at my chest. I jump, so does my heart. It's only a branch of a small bush, Papa says. But I still feel scared. Wait until he starts dating teenage women and he sees a lot of small bushes. Finally, we reach the top of the mountain. Two men are chopping wood near a shack. Papa walks over to them. How does he know they are friends? He whispers to them and they open the door of the shack. It's cold and damp inside. Strange faces are crowded around a small table. No one says hello. No one even looks at us. It's like a Greyhound bus station. Some men have their coat collars pulled up over their heads. They sway and pray in Hebrew. I put Mama's roasted egg on the table. The Seder table looks so empty. There's only a glowing candle, one bottle of wine, 2 cups, and a piece of matzah. I close my eyes and think of Grandmama's Seder table last year with a fancy lace cloth and silver so shiny I see my face in it. I see her beautiful Seder plate with all the foods. I feel Grandpapa tickling me before he lit the candles. This is why there was a restraining order. I want them here instead of this. This is what the kid gets to see. Oh joy, because we really want to celebrate and praise God in the midst of times when God is just basically torturing us and trying to kill us. Papa pulls his coat collar up over his head and takes me under. We sway as he chants. His chanting turns to gasping, then to sobbing. I hear other men sobbing too. I hug Papa's leg. Papa, please don't cry. Cher ami, let us come together now, someone says. So obviously there's a couple of people stooping in the background. We come out from the coat. An old man with dark circles under his eyes pours the first 4 cups of wine. This is a dark time for our people, the old man says. We're separated from our families and living secret as Jews. Our Seder table is almost empty, but still we may renew our spirit as we celebrate Passover when God delivered our people to freedom. He says a blessing in Hebrew, he drinks some wine, then he says another blessing almost in Hebrew, then he drinks some more wine, then he starts speaking Turkish. Then he passes the cup around. Papa lets me sip some. It tingles on my tongue. We have no bitter herbs to dip in salted water, says the old man. We don't need bitter herbs, says a deep voice. Our lives are bitter enough. Oh, kids, this is like a romper room of the soul, isn't it? We're reading The Secret Seder by Doreen Rappaport. No one speaks for a few minutes. The old man reads from a ragged sheet of paper. It was spring when the Passover took place. Our ancestors were slaves in Egypt. Remember their tears when they were slaves, and remember the tears of all who are not free today. The old man continues, because, old man, once they start talking, you can't stop them. We have only one piece of matzah instead of the traditional three pieces. I'm hungry here. He puts half in his pocket and he winks at me. Another potential restraining order. Grandpapa winked at me before he hid the matzah too. Seder leaders always hide a piece of matzah and the children steal it back. After the meal, the leader has to find it or pay a ransom. It's like a game. I am the only child here, so I must play the game. I slip my hand into his pocket and take out the matzah. He pretends not to see me. Jenga, it isn't. Halach ma an yadi achalu. He's singing here, still speaking in tongues, a little drunk. He holds up the other half of the matzah. This is the bread of affliction. When our ancestors fled Egypt, they took bread that was sun-baking on the rocks, usually with its top half off. It had not yet risen. He sips more wine than he looks toward me. He doesn't know the 4 questions yet, Papa says. I do know them, Papa, I say proudly. I practiced with Mama. Papa's eyes widen in surprise and happiness, because it really makes a difference, like a child in the middle of the Holocaust will actually have memorized a couple of pointless words. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halayla. Why is this night different from other? Why? Because you're going to walk outside after it's over and get shot to death and put in a gas chamber. I chant. Shebechol halaylat. Because on all other nights we eat bread or matzah, but on this night we eat only matzah. A second reason tonight is different is a deep voice interrupts me. I think tonight is different. Because tonight, all over Europe, Jews are being murdered! This is a children's book. I love this. It is not much different from when Pharaoh worked our people to death, Papa says. It is not much different from when our people were expelled from Spain and Portugal, says another man. It is different, insists the deep voice. For hundreds are being murdered every day, and thousands more will be murdered if Hitler is not stopped. Again, there is silence. Oh, don't you wish you were reading Paddington Bear instead of this? Then the old man nods at me, and I finish the questions. Good work, he says. Papa hugs me. The old man tells our people's history starting from Abraham's time. He's a good storyteller, like Grandpapa. Suddenly the door bursts open. I grab for Papa's hand and squeeze my eyes shut, afraid to see who it is. It's all right, Papa whispers. It is only one of the men who was chopping wood. He was keeping watch outside. Now he's come to hear part of the Seder. The old man continues. The Haggadah says that a long time ago 5 learned rabbis sat around the Seder table as we do now. They told and retold, because Jews have to say everything twice, the story of our people's flight from Egypt into the Holy Land, searching for its meaning. He lowers his voice. It was dangerous for them to do this, for they were forbidden to study or to teach their religion. It is dangerous for us to do this too, I say. I am surprised at my voice. He finishes the story of Passover. Pharaoh was so cruel to our people, they cried out to God for help. God sent Moses to tell Pharaoh to free them. Pharaoh refused. You know this. Then God brought 10 plagues upon Egyptians, so Pharaoh would see his power and determination to help the Israelites. He dips my pinky in the cup of wine. Blood spilling over Egypt. Frogs spilling out over the wine. Frogs, I never understood the frog thing. Blood, scary, creepy, ugh. Lice, horrible. Cattle disease. Flies, annoying. But frogs, they're cute. Still, it's one of the plagues. Each time he names one of the plagues, I dip my pinky in the wine and put a droplet of it on the table. His voice quivers when he gets to the 10th and final plague. And God told Pharaoh he would kill all the firstborn sons in Egypt, including the animals. He told the Hebrews to wipe the blood of a slaughtered lamb over their doorposts so that he would know to pass over their houses. And when the firstborn were slain, Pharaoh finally freed the Israelites. Why doesn't he free us? Someone moans, then disappears under his coat. Tonight, we are free, says Papa. We are free inside ourselves, for by celebrating Pesach, we defy orders not to practice our religion. Don't optimists just piss the fuck out of you? Oh, yeah, we're free inside. We're starving to death. We live in absolute terror, and all our families are being slaughtered, but we're free in here. Great God Almighty, we're free at last. Okay. There's another prayer, more wine, another prayer. Then we sing, Die, Dayenu, Die, Dayenu. We do not sing out loud. We are whisper singing. We move our hands in rhythm to the words. We sway our bodies back and forth. Everyone's smiling, even the man with a deep voice. I feel happy to be here, happy that we are all together. Remember God's promise to guide and protect our ancestors and their descendants, said the old man. He points to the matzah. Remember that our people left Egypt so quickly that the bread sun-baking on the rocks had no time to rise. I could go for a martini and Rossi on the rocks. I don't know about you. He talks about the missing ceremonial foods, and I can see them. There they are. You can visualize them on the empty table. And this is how Jews get into theater. A little bit more of the book. In this ugly time, it is easy to lose faith. No shit. Let us eat this matzah for strength, he says, and we pass it around until only crumbs are left. In normal times, he says, we would sit down now and eat a big meal with our families. He pauses, usually too big. A joke. But the man saying this makes the child visualize. I see Grandpapa dipping his spoon into Grandmama's chicken soup. No, that is not a sexual metaphor. And scooping up part of a matzah ball. That is a sexual metaphor. But tonight, we can't. The old man stammers, his hands tremble, the ragged papers in his hand drop to the floor. His whole body is shaking now. He looks like he's going to faint. I take the matzah from my pocket, put it in his hands. He nods thank you and pats my head. The fourth cup of wine is poured, and a cup for the prophet Elijah, because of Jews, they have literally nothing, but they take a piece of that nothing and give it to someone who doesn't exist. That's Judaism for you. The old man calls out to God, pour your wrath upon the nations that do not recognize you. I open the door for Elijah. A cold blast of wind sweeps through the cabin. No one speaks as we listen to the wind. Here, wait, a wind effect. Hold it. Watch me while I break wind. Look at that. Oh, a cold blast of wind. There it is. Yeah. Hold on. Hold. Sorry, I had a cold blast of broken wind for a moment. No one speaks as we listen to the wind. The deep voice breaks the silence. Next year in Jerusalem, we shall come together for a great feast, he says. Yeah, right. Next year in Jerusalem, we whisper these beautiful words and hug each other goodbye. The wind whips around us as we go our separate ways. I take Papa's hand, and we begin to walk down the mountain. The end. They don't die. They don't get saved. They just it is a nice little moment in a horrible time, which is basically, as a Jew, all you can kind of look for. About this book. Let's do this is the epilogue, if you will. Not even for the children reading it. This is for the parents. From 1939 to 1945, more than 6 million Jews and 3 million other Europeans considered undesirable by Germany's leader Adolf Hitler were murdered or died of starvation and disease in work camps and concentration camps. Over 1.5 million were Jewish children. We call this terrible time in history the Holocaust, or Shoah. Pesach is the Hebrew word for Passover. Passover, or the Festival of Freedom, celebrates liberation and rebirth and lasts for 8 nights and 8 days. Should have probably read this as a prelude to the book. On the first 2 nights, Jews gathered together at a Seder. Oh, Reform Jews celebrate one Seder and observe the holidays for 7 nights and 7 days. We have to put this in because, Jews, we need to be technical. Seder means order. A Seder is not just the retelling of the story of the Israelites' journey from freedom to slavery. It helps people experience the bitterness of slavery and the sweetness of freedom. The Passover story has great meaning for Jews trying to survive during the Shoah. Some Jews managed to run away and hide until the war was over. More than 10,000 Jewish partisans in hiding formed their own fighting units against the Germans. Power. More than 25,000 Jewish partisans joined forces with the Soviet army. Some Jewish families were hidden by Christian families. Children are hidden in convents, orphanages, haylofts, and cellars. Some hidden Jews took new names and passed as Goyim. The black boot men that Jacques is afraid of could be Germans or French. For unfortunately, some of the frogs, I'm paraphrasing here, collaborated with the Nazis and turned in their Jewish neighbors. This story was inspired by real events. This I did not know. Even with guns firing during the uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto, some Jews celebrated Passover. If they were in the middle of a Passover riot against the Nazis, killing and fighting back, probably better that you get up from the Passover table and holding the shank bone and pick up a fucking rifle and fight. Seriously, what, you gotta sit down and have the ceremony now? No, help your neighbors and kill some Nazis. God damn it. Passover, Vladka Mead, living outside the Warsaw Ghetto as a Christian, wrote about celebrating Passover in the book On Both Sides of the Wall, Memoirs of the Warsaw Ghetto, from Ghetto Fighters House Press in 1972. Nechama Tech wrote that Jews hiding in Poland, this is fucking long. Nechama Tech wrote that Jews hiding in Poland's forests held Seders without ceremonial foods in her book Defiance, the Bielski Partisans, from Oxford University Press. At a Seder in Vilna, Poland, a 14-year-old resistance fighter asked the 4 questions, which sparked an intense discussion on the meaning of Passover. I love the title of this. The Avengers, a Jewish story, written by Rick Cohen, published in 2000. Hiding in a French village, a Belgian Jew named Bernard Mednicki took his son to a Seder in the mountains and wrote about it in Never Be Afraid, A Jew in the Maquis, from Micah Press in Wisconsin. I remain overwhelmed by the hideous statistics of the Holocaust and in awe of the faith so many Jews, despite their brutal and demoralizing circumstances, in the face of death. I hope this book, this children's book, helps you understand the courage and determination of all people throughout history who refused to renounce their beliefs despite the threat of death. So some thank yous. The Seder plate contains, also, I should have read this beforehand, there's a little page here for children about the meanings of the different items on the Seder plate. The egg, the charoset, the chazeret, which is lettuce, vegetables, karpas, the fresh greens, maror, the bitter herbs like horseradish, and zaroa, the roasted bone, which sounds really painful. Symbolizes the lamb.
Are you wearing 2 pairs of glasses, Rabbi?
Yeah, I needed my. These are my bifocals. As you can see. This is Dave's wife, Joyce. She mocks me. She mocks me relentlessly. This is why women must be put in their place. Okay. And William's place is probably on my lap, angled just above the crotch. Well, we'll talk about that later. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been watching or listening to The Secret Seder by Doreen Rappaport. Oh, what fun. What joyous, joyous, happy times we have. So, my friends, hold on. Oh, the light. Oh, my God. Oh, I can barely focus. Hold it. Ooh. That's better. So, yeah, we're past Passover. But it has been a delight to share with you some Jewish literature on StoryTime. I want to thank Dave Lefkowitz for giving me this opportunity to share the book with you, to share some Yiddishkeit with you. The grimness, the sadness, the depression, the arguing. It doesn't get more Jewish than that. Shalom uvracha from every one of me to every one of you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us on a Saturday morning, April 20th. How the hell did that happen? Stop it! Just stop! Thank you. That was Rabbi Saul's music. For more about Rabbi Saul Solomon, remember you can go
Or
to
therapy.
shalomdammit.com. Shalomdammit.com. That's where you can watch his amazing stage show. You can watch episodes of the TV show he did for Long Island Cable TV a bunch of years ago, as well as read and listen to his rabbinical reflections. All things, excuse me, Solomonic are at shalomdammit.com. You're going to want to check that out. So thank you to him for being with us on this 891st episode of the Dave's Gone By show. So, wasn't that a lovely, charming, and delightful book?
It's a super downer.
Yeah, kind of. And it leaves everything hanging. They just kind of leave the Seder. Yeah.
So Zev put under your picture, "Go Dave, go."
Oh.
Yes.
Is that Zvi or Zev?
I don't know, Z-A-V-I?
Oh, Zvi. So, yeah.
And so, and also the one who did the gladiolas died. You know, the gladiola one, the man who,
Oh my God!
What's their name? They posted it.
Well, Dame Edna was the character,
Yes.
and it was shame on me.
Wasn't she on your show?
Barry Humphries. No, I
Yeah.
never had Barry Humphries. I would love to have Barry Humphries on the show, but that's.
I saw it on the Facebook, yeah.
Oh dear. He was pretty funny. I saw him on Broadway a couple of times. Shake your gladdies! I never understand these things. I never know how that character becomes world famous and Rabbi Saul is still like a cult figure. But I don't know.
No, he's an occult figure. That's different.
Well, when he goes to England, they call him a cunt figure, but that's a very whole different kind of a thing. He's chuffed. Well, it is about 20 after 11.
Don't you want to get to your...
Yes, sir, I do. We don't have that much more to do. We do have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. What else do we want to talk about? Don't want to talk about Fox News or the parking garage. I told you one time, it happened this week. This happened 20-something years ago. I was in Manhattan, somewhere below 30th Street, but in the 20s. Yeah. And I was just walking, and suddenly you hear like,
Flash, yes.
And the second level of a parking just went.
I've seen it in Queens. They built a mall, and it happened. And then they said that the contractors they did an investigation, and whatever you're supposed to do with cement, they watered it down. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Too much sand.
It wasn't the same whatever, and it just that was bad.
And like every structure in New York and around the country is going to have if inspectors come in, they're going to find this. So it's easy to point and say, well, they didn't fix this particular. I mean, every building that you're in.
They said that the Golden Gate Bridge, they had the anniversary of the 90th anniversary years ago, and so many people were on the bridge that it lowered 7 feet, and the structural engineer said it didn't do anything to it, but. How can it not, right? So, you wonder what's the wear and tear. Whenever we go over a bridge and they're fixing it, I'm like,
yeah, well, at least they're fixing it. But So, because there was this thing in Manhattan, the manager of the parking garage got killed. He got crushed.
Oh, God.
And then a bunch of other cars got damaged.
Yes.
But it's just it's more and more and more. I have no great love for President Trump, but if he only come through on the infrastructure stuff.
Who has a car in Manhattan? It's very odd. Maybe people drive in.
Do.
You think,
People still, how is it? How is it so many people are supposedly leaving Manhattan?
Yeah.
And yet there's still tremendous traffic, and you can't walk across like 8th Avenue at 10 o'clock at night. Right? How is it that nobody drives?
Tourists? I don't know.
The tourists aren't going to rent a car. I mean, somebody's still driving. People have cars.
Uber. It's all Uber and cabs.
Yeah, right.
And the tour buses.
But one, because they'd be parked in parking garage, they wouldn't no park.
I don't understand it.
But everybody said, "Oh, Manhattan it probably was emptied out during the early months of the pandemic." But this idea, 10,000 people moved away from Manhattan. It's like
Well, there was
no one
a
notices.
parking garage on Theater Row,
Yeah.
and it was like a little square with like 10 spaces, and I'm like, how do you maintain that? Like,
Mhm.
how do you?
Well, that's easy enough. It's like 8, 9.
No, I know, but
yeah.
like, how do you make money off of that? Right? That's prime real estate. Right? Like,
You charge probably $500 a month for somebody to park there.
Park,
Well, what is that? Is it $30 an hour to park now?
I don't know.
It's nuts. It's really it's nuts. Anyway, yeah. Let's first do the Friends of the Neighborhood, because I talked about Rabbi Saul Solomon, who's been on the program since our very first show. But although we don't have other guests today, we're not doing the quiz. I was trying to get guests. I'm sorry, what?
Will you do the quiz next week?
Probably, yeah. I couldn't find literally 5 people turned. Just one was sick, one was this, one was that, one's too busy, one's too early in the morning. Like, fuck. If this were the Today Show calling, you would get up at 2 in the morning.
Well, if you're angry at your guests, you're not going to get more of them.
Well, I'm not going to get the ones who didn't come on,
You'll get different ones,
Yeah, of course I will, and eventually will. But it was just kind of weird that I was waiting for one. And 2 weeks ago, I was waiting for this woman who, the hell with her. But this week, someone couldn't do it, and then tried to get, and every other one, like 5 people, didn't want the honor and the glory of being on this show where we introduced Mr. Poodangles.
Well, maybe they couldn't top it. It's hard to it's hard to compete with such a song. So maybe they felt their craft was inferior.
That's true.
It's tough. It's like you don't want to be the one who's like, oh, you're the letdown. So.
Yeah, you were the one we had to sit through while we were waiting to hear Dave's song about Mr. Poodangles.
Yes.
But these are people we're going to mention who have been
They were
on Dave's Gone By.
Really excellent guests.
Over the years. We've had hundreds of people on the show. And we like to keep tabs on them as best we can. Let you know what they've been up to, what they have been up to, since they've been in the Daverhood. And we like to call this particular segment, let me write that in here. Let's have some Beethoven. Friends of the Daverhood. So, Friends of the Daverhood are people who've been on this program, whether it was a month ago or way back in the beginning. And hey, here's what they're up to. For example, want to let you know that Vanities, the musical, this is its closing weekend. So you have just really today to get to the York Theater's space, currently at St. Jean's, up on East 70-something Street, and see this musical version of Jack Hefner's play, Vanities. Hefner revised, worked with our friend David Kirshenbaum, who did the score for the show, in adapting his play into this musical. And they've done it for the past couple of weeks at the York Theater. If you haven't seen it, this is your last chance tonight. And there's probably a matinee today as well. Congratulations to Dakin Matthews on Monday. He will be honored by the acting company at their gala at Capitale, which is a club or something on 130 Bowery, so downtown, I guess, near the Public Theater-ish. But congratulations to, he's done Shakespeare, he's done all kinds of acting. Dakin Matthews being honored, yay. On Monday also, if you're not seeing Dakin Matthews there, go see cabaret legend Karen Akers in her latest show. It's called About Time. And she's going to be at Birdland on West 44th Street, the legendary Karen Akers. Speaking of legends, Charles Bush on Tuesday night, April 25th, Charles Bush, who he's doing his own cabaret show, songs and storytelling, called My Foolish Heart, is going to be at 54 Below. And this is major because only, like 2 months ago, Charles Bush had serious major heart surgery done stuff that had to be corrected and fixed, and he's feeling well enough to do a show. So yay for Charles Bush. Go see him at 54 Below. Also on Tuesday, congratulations, he's just been getting honor after honor, especially after his Tony Award a couple of years ago. But Andre DeShields has won the Distinguished Achievement Award as announced by the Drama League of New York, and that is being handed out on Tuesday. And on Tuesday night, if you just want some big band music, go see Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks. They're going to be playing at Birdland. Now, also starting on Tuesday night, the 25th, and running for the week at Irish Repertory Theatre, Dear Liar. It's a play. I think it's about George Bernard Shaw, but it's not by him. And it features our friend Melissa Errico. It's kind of reader's theater. I believe it's an epistolary play where characters read to each other. She is one of the people in it. It's Melissa Errico in Dear Liar, running just for the week at Irish Repertory Theatre in just below Midtown. It's more closer to Chelsea. On Thursday night, Lucy Kaplansky is going to be at the Patchogue Theatre on Long Island, special guest of Larry Campbell and his show there. And then also on Thursday night, Penny Arcade, just one night to see Penny Arcade, doing Longing Lasts Longer at the Players Theatre downtown in New York. Playing now through just tomorrow, so this is your last weekend, to catch Austin Pendleton directing a piece called A Seance with Mom. That is at the Chain Studio on West 36th Street. And now through the end of the weekend, Tom Paxton is teaching songwriting at a songwriter's retreat in North Carolina, in West.
It's too bad that Austin Pendleton can't get any work, you know? He struggles so much.
But what I love about Austin Pendleton, aside from the fact that he's a wonderful guest and everybody has good things to say, is what?
The Alert, Austin
Pendleton. And it's just that he'll do a Broadway, he'll get cast in a Broadway show, and he'll do a Broadway show for a couple of months. And then right back, he'll direct something for off Broadway or some little cabaret.
Yeah,
or he'll teach. Yeah, I mean, he makes a life in the theater and occasionally in TV spots and things too.
He's not like a Law and Order or one
Yeah.
of those things.
And he does a cabaret show with a friend of his. I mean, he's just out there every day living
He's very
theater.
self-actualized.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's doing the stuff he wants to do.
So yay for Austin Pendleton. And who else to give a yay to? Karen Finley, now through May 6th, is doing COVID Vortex Anxiety Opera Kitty Kaleidoscope Disco. You can see that at the Laurie Beachman Theater over on the west side. Al Tapper and Tony Sportiello, you can see their musical On the Right Track at the AMT Theater that they own and run. That is playing through mid-May. Also, our lovely Karen Ziemba.
Oh, how's she doing?
Well, she's great. She's at the Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey in a play by our other friend, Ken Ludwig.
Wow.
And it's an adaptation of a story we both know very well, Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express.
Ooh.
So go see her.
That doesn't kind of end well.
No, it well, the bad guy dies,
Mhm.
if you think about it.
But also the investigator has to change his ethical stance and not report things he should because he's struggling with moral,
What really is morality and fairness. Tova Feldshuh is in Funny Girl on Broadway at the August Wilson Theater. That is until the show ends in early September. Let's see, Seth Bisson-Hirsch does Seth's Talent Showcase at Don't Tell Mama every Tuesday evening. Tuesday evenings is also the time you can see K.T. Sullivan at the Algonquin playing piano and taking requests and singing. Oh yeah. Saturday evenings are when you can see Eric Comstock and Barbara Fasano at Birdland. On Broadway, Lilias White is in Hadestown. Aladdin features the music by Alan Menken.
Wow.
And Menken, of course, also wrote the music for Little Shop of Horrors,
Little shop of
which you can not only see off-Broadway at the West Side Theater, but if you happen to be in Maryland, Stevenson University, the school, is doing Little Shop
That's nice.
this weekend.
Are you going to go see it?
I'm tempted. I kind of want to, but it's over. But they're doing Little Shop
That's great.
by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, of course. What else? Jim Caruso's Cast Party every Monday night at Birdland, StageBuddy.com, a website run by our friend Evan Seplow, Dr. Demento having new and old Dr. Dr. Demento's like 81 years old, and he's still doing new Dr. Demento shows every
That's
week.
ageist. Of course he would be.
And for a small fee, you can go listen
Oh, yeah.
on his website to episodes from the 70s, from the 80s, from the
What's
90s.
fee? Like $10?
Well, he has a thing where it's like per episode $2 or $3 if you just want to listen to an episode.
Okay, yeah.
But for the year, it's pretty
That's how he
expensive for a year.
monetizes,
Yeah. And finally, shout out to our friends Leslie Hoban Blake, who does a theater review show with Charlie Gross called Two on the Aisle that you can watch on YouTube. Vicky Quaddy, who does a bunch of shows in Chicago, including Late Night Catechism, which she co-created, and she created Easter Bunny Bingo, which I gather is probably done.
Yeah.
But she might go back to Are You Smarter Than Your 8th Grade
She
Nun?
probably has like a series, she works through.
And of course, David Sheward, who writes for TheaterLife.com
Again, the
cultural.
reigning champion.
He is, right?
He came back with the
So very likely next week, Leslie and David will be back doing our Today, Yesterday quiz, especially if we get a guest.
Yeah.
But, hey, sometimes we don't need to do the quiz we don't do story time every
Switch it
time.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never had an original song in a long time. So.
It's been.
Mhm.
And this week we had Mr. Poodangles. If you thought that was disgusting, wait until you hear our weekly Colorado. Oh, those were the friends of the Daverhood, by the way. Let me stop the music and get to our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. This is because Joyce and I lived for many years in northern
I'm gonna
Colorado.
get my phone so that I can put in an address.
Yes,
So
yes.
You'll tell me. If I send it to you.
We lived in Greeley, and I got it into my head for no real or good reason to start writing poems about all these different places in Colorado, from the biggest cities like Denver and Pueblo and Vail and places that you've heard of, Colorado Springs, to tiny little places where barely even had a post office. And yet, if I could rhyme them somehow in limerick form, which actually requires 3 rhymes, or sometimes you gotta fudge it and do some near rhymes, I would do it. And now we have well over 250 rhymes. If you want to have a weird afternoon, just go to davelefkowitz.org, my other website, davelefkowitz.org, and look for the Colorado Limericks of the Damned, and you will see them one after another, after another, after another. It is literally like walking slowly into a sewer, my friends. But it's kind of fun. Anyway, we have a new one, a brand new Colorado Limerick this week, where we go to Hillrose, Colorado. Hillrose, Colorado. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and then read an awful limerick about Hillrose, Colorado.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Rocky Mountain, Colorado, 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 Colorado.
Dirty, dirty they are, ladies and gentlemen. Our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Let me tell you a little bit about Hillrose. I had never heard of it until this week when I was scoping for a place to write about. It's a small town of about 300 people in Morgan County in northeastern Colorado, so not particularly far.
Let me just ask you, should
Yeah.
I go to the street? There are a bunch of streets.
Yeah.
But should I go to the street that has the most addresses? That might be
Sure.
the
Or
best.
is there a numbered address? Just program one in,
No,
and then we
but
can.
I'm saying, I don't know where they're in relation to each
Yeah.
other.
Don't say the names of the
No,
streets,
but there's one that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That
That
this
would be
one has the most.
yes. I would program that street
Okay.
right in, or program one of those numbers, and we'll see
So
it.
saying I can't
Well, don't,
focus.
yeah. Anyway, our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, Hillrose, Colorado, incorporated in 1919 and named for a settler's daughter named Rose
I
Hill
don't know the name
Emerson.
again.
Well, here, do you want to program the thing?
No.
Rose Hill Emerson was the girl that they named Hill Rose after. So that's how they got Hillrose, Colorado. And that is how we get this horrible, disgusting limerick of, it's bad. It's bad. All right.
Okay. Okay, I got the first one programmed.
My friend sees a hooker in Hillrose. He started quite young, but he still goes. She's tired and slow, not much of a hoe. But boy, can she do things with dildos. Send your comments and complaints to davesgoneby@aol.com, davesgoneby@aol.com. I do try and read everything I get. I don't have time to reply to everything that I get. I also can post... Well, lower that, please.
I didn't mean to put that.
Yeah. Yeah, and post right here on the Facebook page, right under the
I
show,
didn't mean to make it loud.
or message me. So, that's about it. We've done our Greeley Crimes and Old Times. We've done our Limerick. We've done
It looks like it's gonna rain.
Rabbi Saul doing story. It says it's going to rain later this afternoon. But right now, it should, unless they postpone it, it should be great weather.
I think we should just
We're
go
leaving in
over
like
it.
5 minutes. But
Okay.
first,
Oh, okay.
But first, I think we need to play or show the lyric video of Mr. Poodangles, the song that I sang live on this program. You can go back later. Remember, all the archives are at davesgoneby.com, archive.org. You can also find them at castbox.fm. You okay? You want my tea? Castbox. Ooh, I feel so. Joyce is rubbing my back and scratching my back behind me. I'm like,
If I scratched your back in front of you, you'd have health problems.
it's very good. So yeah. So
I
we
want to see your.
we
the
did
lyrics.
live. There's no visual to it except I put most of the lyrics, as many
No, I
as I
want to
could
see the
fit.
lyrics on the screen, right?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share screen. So let me lower something that you don't need to see. All the things that I shouldn't have up. Let me take that down. Let me take that away. So really, you shouldn't really see very much, including this. I can probably, good. And now I'm going to share screen. So for our last event of this Saturday, April 22nd, on the 891st edition of Dave's Gone By, we should be back next Saturday with 892. And isn't it appropriate that I'll be putting up a number 2 for next Saturday? Whether or not we have a guest, we should be here doing another great episode of Dave's Gone By. Hope you enjoyed it. But now, ladies and gentlemen, let's see, share screen. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to share this so that you guys can see. I'll take that down and show the video. Where did I put it? Oh, dear. I see Rabbi Saul. I'm going to have to go scoping around. Let me stop share for just a moment and find. I probably put it under Dave's Gone By on a file here. Let's see. I have the MP3. Let me just see. Let me see if I
It
can.
says MP3, yeah.
Okay. Let me drag this to here.
Make it full screen too.
So now I am going to share screen. This is important. So if you missed it earlier in the show, this is a pre-recorded professional version of the classic, Mr. Poodangles, the brand new classic on Dave's Gone By. We'll see you next week. Get your hankies out. It's a beautiful, sad, wonderful song. With apologies to Jerry Jeff Walker, Mr. Poodangles. I met a man who dangles in a porta-john, and he was in pain. He said that he'd been sitting there all afternoon, dead tired from the strain. He started to cry. I asked him why. And then he explained, when I was young, so long ago, I ate some beef that stuck in my gut. And ever since I've been backed up with no relief, it's ruptured my butt. The poor man did shout, it's half in, half out, and my anus won't shut. Mr. Poodangles, Mr. Poodangles, Mr. Poodangles, squeeze. He said he spent $10,000 on Dulcolax and all kinds of lube, but still he's got a wad of turd that won't go back or drop from his tube. Lamenting his trials, he kneels on the tiles, and he shows me his piles. Mr. Poodangles, Mr. Poodangles, poor Mr. Poodangles, pinch. The last time I saw Dangles, he was skin and bones, but still on the bowl, sore and sad and bleeding bad and all alone, with his unwholesome hole. And yet he still pushed on his mush, but it clung to his tush. They tell me Pooh was buried in the Portaloo. His final request, they sent him off with flowers and a Charmin roll, and all the towels he messed. And when the earth dropped, everyone stopped. Did they hear a plop? Mr. Poodangles, Mr. Poodangles, oh, Mr. Poodangles, rest. And gone by.